In the quiet space between waking and sleep, let your breath soften as we begin a long and gentle journey. This is the story of medicine and healing, a story as old as humanity itself. It is a story written in ancient fires, in leaves and roots, in whispered remedies carried through generations. It is a story shaped by curiosity, compassion, and the endless desire to ease suffering. As the night deepens around you, allow this unfolding history to move slowly, like a calm river. You are drifting through time, guided by the warmth of understanding, carried by the soft rhythm of human resilience. Long before there were books or instruments, long before clinics or science, there were people who cared for one another. A hand placed on a fevered brow, a poultice of crushed leaves, a moment of shared breath beside a fire. Healing began in these simple acts. Tonight, we follow this thread from its earliest beginnings to the world we inhabit now, where medicine is both an art and a science, where the body is mapped with remarkable precision, and where the mind is finally recognized as a partner in the process of healing. Settle further into comfort, feeling the weight of the day dissolve. Ahead of you lies a vast landscape of knowledge, but the pace is slow, gentle, and unhurried. You will travel through ancient forests where early humans sought remedies in nature. You will walk through the courts of Egypt, along the rivers of Mesopotamia, and through the philosophical gardens of Greece. You will pause in the quiet halls of medieval scholars, then continue into the bright light of discovery that shaped modern medicine. And along the way, you will drift deeper into rest, carried by a calm narrative that blends history, biology, neuroscience, and the human search for. Let each breath draw you further into this story, a story of how we learn to heal. The first healers. Imagine an ancient night, tens of thousands of years ago. A small campfire glows at the center of a clearing. Around it sit early humans, their forms outlined by the orange flicker of flames. The night is cool. The stars are bright and sharp against the dark sky. The air smells of earth and smoke. Somewhere in this quiet gathering, a member of the group is injured. Perhaps a fall, a bite, or a deep cut. The wound is raw and painful, and yet the person is not alone. Others sit close, watching, soothing, offering warmth and protection. This moment, repeated countless times across early human history, marks the beginning of healing. Long before any formal knowledge existed, humans understood something essential. They recognized that pain required care. They understood that the injured needed shelter, rest, and the gentle attention of others. Survival depended on cooperation, and healing became one of the earliest expressions of empathy. Archaeologists have found ancient skeletons with healed fractures that could only have mended if the individual received help. Bones broken in ways that would have left a person unable to hunt or gather, yet they healed over time. This is evidence of something powerful. It means early humans stayed with the injured, fed them, protected them, and waited through the long days and nights of recovery. Healing was not just physical. It was emotional, social, and deeply human. Picture the early healer. They might have watched how animals behaved when injured. A wounded animal rests, avoids movement, and allows time for recovery. Early humans learned from these quiet cues. They gathered leaves with soothing textures. They placed warm hands on swollen limbs. They noticed that certain plants relieved pain or reduced swelling. These healers had no anatomical diagrams or scientific terms. Their knowledge arose from close observation of nature, of the body, and of the connection between tenderness and survival. As you breathe slowly, imagine being among them, the warmth of the The soft murmur of voices, the night wind moving through the tall grasses. Healing in this early world was simple and instinctive. Rest, warmth, clean water, gentle pressure on a wound. The healer might clean a cut with water from a nearby stream. They might press a cool leaf to a fevered forehead. They might whisper softly, offering comfort with tone and presence rather than explanation. This early phase of healing reminds us that medicine did not begin with complexity. It began with compassion. The human brain evolved not only to think, but to care, and healing grew from this ability. As you rest, let that understanding settle deep within you. Healing is older than any civilization. It is woven into the very fabric of our species. These early healers also used their senses in ways that modern science can appreciate. They noticed changes in skin temperature, breathing patterns, and levels of consciousness. They listened for rasping breaths, watched for signs of infection, and learned which injuries were survivable. When someone recovered, the knowledge stayed with the group. When someone did not, the loss left a mark, teaching the community to refine its approach. Over time, patterns emerged. Some herbs helped, some rituals soothed, some practices gave comfort even when they did not cure. Healing became a blend of observation, experience, and the desire to reduce suffering. Feel your breath slowing as the story continues, moving deeper into the ancient world. Imagine seasons passing. Imagine countless generations discovering small pieces of knowledge that would one day form the foundations of medicine. The early healers had no written records, but their wisdom traveled through spoken stories, songs, gestures, and shared practices. Over thousands of years, this collective knowledge strengthened the roots from which all later healing traditions would grow. In the dim light of prehistory, healing was intertwined with survival. It was a quiet, instinctive art. It was the gentle act of sitting beside someone who hurt, keeping them warm, offering food, and giving them time to mend. These early moments shaped everything to come. Every physician, every researcher, every healer through history walks in the footsteps of those first compassionate hands. As you drift more deeply into rest, imagine that ancient fire flickering softly. The embers glow red. The night hums with distant sounds. The first healers sit quietly, tending to someone in need, unaware that they are beginning in a story that will span the entire arc of human existence. Plants and remedies. After countless generations, humans began to understand that nature offered remedies hiding in plain sight. The world was filled with leaves, roots, barks, flowers, and resins, each with properties waiting to be discovered. Picture ancient forests, rich with scents of pine, soil, and rain. Early humans wandered through these landscapes, guided by curiosity and necessity. When someone fell ill, the healer turned to the natural world for help. They watched which plants animals ate when sick. They tested small amounts of leaves to observe effects. They crushed roots and applied them to wounds. Some plants soothed inflammation. Others numbed pain. Some caused unpleasant reactions, teaching caution. Knowledge accumulated slowly but steadily, carried in stories and remembered through generations. Imagine a healer kneeling beside a stream, gathering willow bark. The bark contains salicin, a natural compound that reduces pain and fever. Long before chemistry identified it, humans discovered its effects through careful experimentation. They brewed it into teas, creating early forms of pain relief that would echo forward into modern medicines. Herbal wisdom grew across every continent. In tropical forests, healers found plants that healed infections. In colder regions, they used mosses, lichens, and tree resins. Aromatic herbs soothed the mind and body. Bitter roots stimulated digestion. Flowers with delicate petals brewed into calming infusions that eased anxiety and brought restful sleep. Each discovery felt like a gift from the natural world. Over time, these remedies became part of culture and identity. They were taught to apprentices, guarded as sacred knowledge, and woven into rituals and daily life. As you breathe gently, picture an ancient apothecary made not of shelves and glass jars, but of the land itself. Sunlight filtering through leaves, the sound of water, the scent of crushed herbs mixing with the wind. The healer's hands move with confidence, selecting plants for fever, wounds, childbirth, and fatigue. They dry leaves in the sun, grind roots with stones, and create poultices that draw out heat and infection. Though these early remedies were based on observation rather than scientific methodology, many were profoundly effective. Modern pharmacology has traced the origins of countless medicines back to these ancient discoveries. The poppy gave rise to pain relief. Willow bark became the foundation of aspirin. Cinchona bark provided quinine for malaria. Foxglove led to treatments for heart conditions. These connections remind us that healing is deeply tied to the natural world. Even now, as medicine grows more advanced, many treatments still come from plants. The forest remains a quiet pharmacy, offering lessons to those who listen. As night deepens around you, imagine the healer preparing mixtures by the glow of a small fire, crushing leaves, stirring bowls, murmuring softly as remedies take shape. The air is warm with the scent of herbs and smoke. These early discoveries form a gentle bridge between instinct and understanding. The story of healing expands, guided by nature's subtle wisdom. You are drifting deeper, carried by the unfolding history of how humans learn to work with the world around them. Healing is becoming more structured, more intentional, and more intertwined with meaning. Now we move toward the realm of sacred healing, where remedies meet ritual and the human spirit becomes part of the story. Sacred healing. In ancient societies, healing was not only physical. It lived in the space between body, mind, and spirit. Illness was often understood as a disturbance in harmony, a shift in the balance between the seen and unseen. Healers became more than caregivers. They were guides who walked between worlds. They were shamans, spiritual leaders, and keepers of knowledge. Soft drums echoed in early communities. Smoke rose from burning herbs. Rhythmic chanting filled the air as healers entered trance states, seeking insight, comfort, or connection. These rituals may seem distant to modern understanding, but they served powerful roles. They created a sense of calm. They reduced fear. They brought communities together in shared hope and support. The human mind is deeply shaped by belief and expectation. When someone trusts in a healer's presence, their body often responds with reduced stress and increased resilience. Long before psychology explored these effects, shamans understood them intuitively. Rituals were crafted not only to treat illness, but to restore a sense of meaning and safety. Picture a small hut made of woven branches. Inside, dim light flickers from a bowl of glowing coals. The healer, wearing feathers or beads, begins a slow, rhythmic chant. The patient lies nearby, breathing softly. Herbs are burned, their fragrant smoke filling the space. The chant becomes steady, creating a hypnotic calm. The mind quiets, muscles loosen, the breath deepens. These rituals helped people enter states of relaxation, which modern neuroscience recognizes as profoundly supportive to healing. The nervous system shifts from tension to rest. The immune system becomes more active. The body begins its natural process of repair. Healing ceremonies varied across cultures. Some used music, others used dance. Some involved symbolic journeys guided by the healer's voice. Others included herbal drinks that altered perception. Each tradition reflected a unique blend of environment, spirituality, and community. Though modern medicine does not rely on these rituals, their psychological truth remains. Humans need connection, comfort, and meaning. Healing is more effective when it feels supported, when fear is reduced, and when hope is present. These early spiritual practices remind us that healing has always been both physical and emotional. As your breath slows, imagine the soft glow of ancient fires and the low hum of ritual music. Healing in this era was a deeply human experience, shaped by the belief that the body and spirit were intertwined. The story continues now toward the great civilizations that transformed healing into an organized art. Civilizations of medicine. As human societies grew larger and more complex, so did their understanding of illness and healing. Civilizations developed along rivers, trade routes, and fertile plains. With them came record-keeping, specialists, and structured approaches to medicine. The ancient world blossomed with knowledge that still influences healing today. Imagine the stone halls of ancient Egypt, cool and shaded from the desert sun. Egyptian physicians were among the first to document medical practices on papyrus scrolls. They understood the pulse, recognized diseases, and used herbs with remarkable precision. They cleaned wounds with honey, which we now know has antibacterial properties. They set broken bones with splints and studied the human body during mummification, gaining early insights into anatomy. In Mesopotamia, clay tablets preserved medical texts filled with observations and treatments. Their healers combined rational remedies with spiritual ideas, reflecting the belief that illness could arise from natural causes or from imbalance in the world. They offered plant-based cures, dietary advice, and structured healing rituals. These records show a sophisticated understanding of symptoms and diagnoses. Travel to ancient India and picture the warm air filled with the scent of spices and flowers. Ayurveda emerged as one of the oldest continuous healing systems. It taught that health arises from balance within the body's energies. Practitioners used herbs, massage, breathing practices, and meditation. They recognized digestion as central to health and identified stages of disease long before modern pathology. Across the mountains and deserts in ancient China, another powerful medical tradition grew. Traditional Chinese medicine viewed the body as a landscape of energy flows. Balance between these flows created health. Herbs, acupuncture, movement practices, and dietary guidance formed the foundation of their healing philosophy. Chinese scholars detailed the pulse in intricate ways, creating diagnostic methods still studied today. In ancient Greece, medicine took a remarkable step toward rational explanation. Hippocrates emphasized observation, diet, environment, and lifestyle. He believed that disease had natural causes rather than divine punishment. Greek physicians studied symptoms methodically, developing ethical principles for practice. Their ideas laid the groundwork for scientific medicine. As you breathe slowly and deeply, imagine walking through these ancient worlds. Marble courtyards, libraries filled with scrolls, gardens growing healing herbs, soft lamplight illuminating early medical writings. Each civilization added its own piece to the story of healing. Wisdom traveled along trade routes. Knowledge crossed deserts and seas. Healers learned from one another, expanding their understanding of the human body and the nature of illness. In this era, healing became a craft, a profession, and a discipline. structures emerged that allowed knowledge to be preserved and expanded. The story grows more detailed and interconnected, carrying us toward the moment when humans began to look inside the body itself, seeking to understand its mysteries with new clarity. The first healers. Picture an ancient landscape beneath a wide and endless sky. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of soil and wind. The sunlight is gentle as it spreads across tall grasses that sway in slow, rhythmic movements. Far in the distance, small groups of early humans travel together, bound by necessity and the warmth of shared existence. In this world, every sound matters. Every movement carries meaning. Life is fragile, and survival depends not only on strength or speed, but on the deep instinct to care for one another. Imagine one such group settling near a riverbank as evening approaches. The light fades into a soft amber glow. The fire they build crackles gently, casting warm patterns across faces weathered by time and experience. Among them sits an individual who has been injured, perhaps a fall on uneven ground, perhaps a sharp stone that cut into the skin. The wound is painful, the body weakened, yet this person is not left behind. Others gather close, offering food, warmth, and simple remedies drawn from instinct and the lessons of many lifetimes. These are the earliest healers. They have no titles, no theories, no tools carved from metal. Yet they hold the beginning of everything we now know as medicine. Healing begins here, in this quiet circle of firelight. The instinct to help another is not something taught. It runs deeper than a language. Neuroscience now shows that humans are naturally wired with empathy. The sight of another's pain activates regions in the brain that mirror their experience, a bridge of understanding that compels us to respond. Long before these mechanisms were understood, they guided the hands and hearts of early humans. They learned through observation. They watched which actions soothed. They noticed when warmth eased shivering or when a calm voice quieted fear. As you breathe deeply, imagine sitting with this ancient group. Listen to the wind moving through the grass. Hear the soothing crackle of the fire. See how the healer leans close to examine the wound. There is no rush. Their movements are slow and deliberate. They clean the injury with water from the river. They press leaves with soft, velvety textures against the skin. They wrap the wound with woven grasses or animal hide. They murmur softly, offering reassurance through tone and presence. In that gentle moment, healing is not merely a physical act. It is emotional, social, human. Archaeologists have found evidence of this compassion preserved in bones thousands of years old. Skeletons show fractures that healed over time, breaks so severe that the injured individual could not have survived without prolonged care. Someone stayed with them. Someone brought food. Someone protected them from cold and predators. This tells us something profound. Healing is older than any civilization. It is older than writing, farming, and cities. It began within the earliest communities, not as knowledge, but as kindness. Consider what life demanded of these early healers. The world around them was unpredictable. Weather changed without warning. Food was never guaranteed. Animals posed dangers both seen and unseen. And yet, in the midst of all of this, humans found time to care. They learned to rest the injured, to apply pressure to bleeding wounds, to keep fevers cool with water or shade. They discovered that certain plants reduced pain or swelling. They learned to watch the patterns of illness. They recognized which conditions improved with rest and which required long, attentive care. Their knowledge was not written. It was carried through memory, passed from one generation to the next in stories spoken beside firelight. The healer of one group became the teacher of the next. Through time, their understanding grew. They began to connect the rhythms of nature to the state of the body. They noticed how certain foods restored strength, how clean water prevented sickness, how fresh air and movement supported recovery. These early observations would eventually form the foundation of entire medical systems. Imagine the daily life of an early healer. At dawn, the light spreads across the land like a warm breath. The healer wakes and surveys the surroundings, listening to the sounds of the group. They check on the injured. They examine wounds that are beginning to close. They encourage slow movements to restore strength. They gather herbs and roots from the forest or plains, guided by a memory shaped from countless generations. They know which plants soothe an unsettled stomach, which leaves calm inflammation, which tree bark reduces fever. Their wisdom is practical, intuitive, and deeply connected to the natural world. The healer observes animals as well. They watch how a wounded deer rests in shade, how a bird cleans its own feathers after injury, how certain animals seek out specific plants when ill. These observations become part of a growing understanding. Modern biologists now know that many animals self-medicate with plants found in their environment. Early humans witnessed this instinct and adopted similar behaviors. Nature taught them. They listened. As your breath settles into a slow, even rhythm, imagine the healer working with simplicity and grace. They use stones warmed by the fire to loosen tense muscles. They use cold water to soothe burning skin. They create poultices by grinding herbs with smooth stones, mixing them with water or animal fat to bind the plant's healing properties. Each remedy is crafted with patience and care. The process itself is calming, slowing the mind and bringing the group into a state of quiet focus. Healing in this world is not separate from daily life. It is woven into every action. The group moves together, protects one another, and shares the burden of care. When an individual recovers, there is a gentle sense of gratitude, not expressed in words, but in the ease of movement, the renewed strength, the return to the rhythms of gathering, resting, and traveling. Healing reinforces connection. It deepens trust. It strengthens the bonds that allow humans to survive in a world far larger than themselves. Picture an early evening when a child falls ill with fever. The healer sits close, feeling the warmth of the child's skin. They place cool leaves upon the forehead, gently shifting them as they absorb heat. They offer small sips of water, knowing that hydration supports recovery. They speak softly, their voice slow and reassuring. The child's breath steadies. The fever rises and falls in waves. Through the night, the healer stays near, listening to the quiet sound of breathing, adjusting blankets to maintain comfort. At dawn, the child stirs, the fever beginning to fade. In this moment, the healer's patience becomes part of the child's survival. Over centuries, early humans formed deeper understandings of the natural world and the body. They recognized patterns in sickness and recovery. They saw how certain wounds healed faster with specific herbs. They noticed how some illnesses spread through groups and others did not. They responded to these patterns with creativity and resilience. They experimented, adapted, and refined their approaches. Slowly, the earliest foundations of medical knowledge emerged. Imagine the healer during a particularly harsh season. Food is scarce. Illness spreads through the group as temperatures drop. The healer seeks remedies in the landscape, searching for plants with strong scents or bitter tastes. knowing these often contain powerful compounds. They brew teas that warm the body. They create infusions that ease coughing or open breathing. They use smoke from burning leaves to cleanse the air. Their actions bring comfort even when cures are uncertain. In this world, healing is not guaranteed, but effort and care create hope. Fear often accompanied illness. The unknown has always stirred deep emotions in the human mind. A sudden fever, a strange rash, a slow weakening of the limbs. Without scientific understanding, these experiences felt mysterious and unpredictable. But the presence of a healer brought structure to fear. Their calm demeanor soothed the mind. Their rituals and remedies offered a sense of protection. Even when the outcome was uncertain, the process created peace. As you relax further, picture the healer's role expanding beyond the physical. They comfort the grieving. They guide emotional pain. They teach younger members of the group to recognize danger and maintain well-being. They act as observers of life, learning from every experience. Their knowledge grows with every season, every illness, every recovery, and every loss. Healing becomes a central part of the human story. It shapes how families care for one another. It influences how groups choose where to live, when to migrate, and how to prepare for changing environments. It supports childbirth, allowing populations to grow. It reduces suffering, creating space for creativity, cooperation, and culture. Without healing, humans could not have built the societies that would later rise across the world. Over thousands of years, this early wisdom becomes the basis for more organized forms of healing. As populations expand and settle into larger communities, knowledge deepens. Healing begins to merge with rituals, beliefs, and the first foundations of spirituality. It becomes both practical and symbolic, reflecting the growing complexity of human life. As the fire burns low in that ancient clearing, imagine the healer looking out across the land. They see the stars stretching across the dark sky. They hear the quiet breathing of those they have tended. Their hands rest on their knees, worn from years of work. In their heart, they carry the first spark of understanding that will one day grow into entire systems of medicine. They do not know how far their knowledge will travel, but they feel its importance in the quiet satisfaction of seeing others recover, regain strength, and continue the journey of life. The story of these early healers is a story of resilience, a story of intuition, a story of caring for one another in a world that offered little certainty. It reminds us that healing is not only technical, it is emotional, it is social, it is deeply human. The first healers laid the groundwork for everything that would come after. Their quiet acts of compassion echo across thousands of generations, reaching you now as you rest. As your breath deepens, feel the gentle continuity of their presence, as if their hands still guide the story of healing. From the earliest fires to the modern world, the thread of care remains unbroken. It leads now into the next chapter, where humans begin to discover the remarkable remedies hidden in the plants and landscapes around them, expanding the art of healing into the natural world itself. Plants and remedies. Imagine the world as it once was, long before farms and cities and organized settlements shaped the land. Forests stretched across continents, dense and vibrant. Rivers carved their paths through quiet valleys. Hills rolled gently beneath open skies. In these ancient landscapes, early humans moved with curiosity and necessity, learning from everything around them. Among their greatest teachers was the natural world itself, a vast living library of scents, textures, tastes, and healing powers hidden in leaves, roots, and bark. This land was their first pharmacy, and every plant held a secret waiting to be discovered. Picture an early morning in a lush forest. Mist hangs in the air, softening the shapes of trees and stones. The ground is cool beneath bare feet. Birds call through the stillness, their voices echoing like distant bells. In this quiet, an early healer walks slowly, observing every detail. Their eyes scan the earth for familiar leaves. Their hands brush gently against the bark of trees. They breathe in deeply, tasting the moisture of the morning, sensing the changes in the air. They are not wandering aimlessly. They are gathering knowledge. Healing through plants is one of the most ancient arts, born from close observation and careful experimentation. Early humans tasted berries and roots, learned which caused harm and which brought relief. They noticed how certain plants grew in places of strong sunlight, while others thrived in shade. They recognized patterns in scent and bitterness, linking flavors to effects on the body. Slowly, generation by generation, this knowledge grew into something remarkable. Imagine the healer crouching beside a willow tree near a stream. The air around the water is cool and refreshing. They scrape a thin strip of bark from the tree and chew it slowly. The bark contains natural compounds that reduce pain and fever, something modern medicine would later refine into aspirin. But for this healer, the discovery came simply from experience. Perhaps they saw that chewing the bark relieved headache or eased discomfort after injury. Perhaps they noticed animals nibbling the bark when wounded. Nature offered clues, and the healer learned to read them. As the sun climbs higher, the healer moves deeper into the forest. They touch leaves to test their texture. Smooth and soft often meant soothing. Rough or spiky textures required caution. The scent of a plant could reveal its potential. Sharp aromas hinted at strong compounds, often useful for relieving congestion or stimulating energy. Sweet or earthy scents might calm the body and mind. Bitterness was another language. Bitter plants often aided digestion, stimulating the body to restore balance. Every plant became a teacher. Roots that stained the fingertips with bright colors, flowers that opened only at dusk, leaves that curled when touched. Each had a story, a purpose, and a gift. Healers learned to combine them in ways that amplified their effects. They crushed leaves into pastes, brewed roots into teas, and infused oils with aromatic herbs. These early remedies formed the bedrock of herbal medicine, traditions that would one day influence practices across the world. Picture the healer preparing a poultice near the fire. They use smooth stones to grind leaves into a green paste. The aroma is fresh and slightly bitter. They mix it with water from the nearby river to create a thick, cooling substance that can be applied to wounds or inflamed skin. As they press the poultice against an injury, they watch carefully for signs of relief. If swelling decreases or pain fades, the remedy is remembered and shared. If the skin reddens or discomfort increases, they revise their approach, learning from each attempt. This process of trial and error was slow and sacred. Nothing happened quickly. Knowledge deepened with each passing season. Healers relied on memory and intuition and the wisdom of elders who passed information through stories and demonstrations. There were no written texts, no diagrams, no formulas, only experience, only attention, only the deep, quiet relationship between humans and the land that sustained them. As your breath slows, imagine the healer teaching a younger member of the group. They kneel together beside a plant with delicate purple flowers. The healer shows how to pinch the stem gently, how to smell the leaves, how to recognize the subtle differences between safe and dangerous species. The young apprentice listens with wide eyes, absorbing each lesson as if it were a precious secret. In this world, every plant matters. Every detail is essential. The natural world offered remedies for countless conditions. Some plants eased aches in the joints, others calmed the mind after a long day of travel or stress. Certain roots soothed coughs or cleared the sinuses. Leaves with strong scents were burned to purify the air or repel insects. Flowers brewed into teas brought sleep or relaxation. Bark steeped in water reduced fevers. Even plants considered toxic had uses when prepared carefully, providing powerful effects in small, controlled amounts. Picture a night when someone in the group falls sick with a deep, persistent cough. Their breathing is strained. Their chest feels tight. The healer responds quickly, gathering herbs from the forest edge. They choose leaves with bright, sharp aromas that open the airways. They crush them gently and boil them into a warm tea. As the sick person sips the mixture, steam rises into the air, carrying the plant's essential oils into their lungs. The breath slowly deepens. The muscles around the chest begin to relax. The healer sits beside them, listening to the quiet rhythm of recovery. These remedies did far more than treat symptoms. They opened the door to an intimate connection between humans and the world around them. Every plant became a companion, a source of strength and comfort. Healers learned to map the landscape through knowledge of plants, knowing when they bloomed, where they grew, how they responded to rain, sunlight, and season. Their relationship with nature was not distant or analytical. It was immediate, intuitive, and personal. As you settle deeper into rest, imagine walking through a clearing filled with tall grasses and wildflowers. The air is warm and sweet. Bees drift lazily between blossoms. The healer walks beside you, pointing out plants with healing properties. A flower that calms the mind, a leaf that soothes bites and stings, a root that strengthens the body. In this moment, the world feels full of potential. Every step reveals something useful. Every breath carries the scent of medicine. Herbal medicine became a core part of early human survival. It allowed groups to endure harsh winters, recover from illness, and support women through childbirth. It helped heal wounds from hunting or accidents. It soothed children frightened by fever or pain. It brought comfort to elders whose bodies had grown tired with age. Through plants, humans learned that nature is not only a challenge to overcome, but a partner in health. This partnership shaped the entire course of medical history. Many of the medicines used today trace their origins back to these ancient discoveries. The bark of the cinchona tree gave rise to treatments for malaria. Poppy plants led to the earliest forms of pain relief. Foxglove became the basis for heart medications. Thousands of modern drugs still derive from plants found in forests, jungles, and meadows. As the healer works through their day, the relationship between plant and human becomes clear. They honor nature with careful harvesting, taking only what is needed. They observe how the earth responds. They understand that healing is not a one-sided act, but a dialogue. The land offers support, and the healer responds with gratitude and respect. This philosophy became deeply woven into healing traditions across the world. Imagine the healer preparing remedies for the changing seasons. In spring, they gather fresh leaves and flowers with delicate aromas. In summer, they collect fruits and berries that strengthen the body. In autumn, they harvest roots rich with stored energy. In winter, they rely on dried herbs preserved with care. Each season brings different needs and different opportunities for healing. The cycle of nature becomes the rhythm of medicine. As your body grows more relaxed, imagine the healer walking through a meadow at sunset. The sky glows with soft hues of gold and pink. The wind carries the scent of herbs warmed by the day. Their arms are filled with plants gathered for remedies. They walk with peace, knowing that the earth has provided everything needed to support life. Their trust in nature is complete. For early humans, plants were not separate from daily life. They were intertwined with survival, culture, and spiritual meaning. Many plants were believed to hold protective powers. Some were used in rituals to strengthen the spirit. Others were symbols of purity, vitality, or resilience. Healing through plants became more than practical. It became sacred, a bridge between the physical and the spiritual, the visible and the unseen. This sacred relationship would eventually evolve into elaborate healing traditions. Over time, rituals developed around the use of herbs. Songs were sung during harvesting. Prayers were whispered before applying remedies. Healers believed that their intention, their focus, and their emotional state influenced the effectiveness of the plant. Modern psychology now recognizes the power of expectation and belief in shaping outcomes. These early rituals reflected a profound understanding of the mind's role in healing. Picture a night when a member of the group suffers from deep emotional pain. Perhaps grief, fear, or exhaustion weighs heavily on the heart. The healer prepares a tea made from calming herbs collected during the warm months. They light a small fire, creating a circle of warm light in the darkness. The tea is sipped slowly. Its warmth spreads through the body. The healer speaks softly, their voice steady and comforting. The aroma of the herbs fills the air, creating a sense of safety. In this moment, healing is not only physical, it is emotional, it is symbolic. It is an act of care that touches the deepest parts of the mind. As the centuries pass, herbal knowledge continues to grow. It becomes more complex, more refined. Specific combinations of plants are discovered to create stronger effects. Some herbs are used to treat infections, others to stop bleeding, others to calm the mind during rituals or transitions. This period of discovery forms a bridge between instinctive healing and organized medical traditions. Imagine a small village forming at the edge of a forest. Homes made of wood and stone line a central clearing. Children play near the river. Elders sit beneath the shade of trees, weaving baskets or telling stories. The healer of this community now holds an important role. People come to them with fevers, sprains, cuts, and worries. They teach young apprentices who gather herbs with them at dawn. They dry plants on racks near the fire, storing them for winter. The village depends on their knowledge. Their remedies bring comfort and resilience to every member of the community. In this world, healing is not separate from life. It is part of the rhythm of daily existence. It reflects a relationship between humans and nature that is intimate and profound. The healer walks through the land with reverence, seeing the earth as both provider and teacher. Their work bridges the ancient instinct of care with the developing understanding of the natural world. As your breath softens, imagine lying in a peaceful field at twilight. The air is cool and gentle. The scent of herbs drifts around you. You feel connected to the long lineage of humans who discovered healing through plants. Their wisdom echoes across thousands of years and still lives within the medicines used today. The story of plants and remedies is a story of discovery, patience, and wonder. A story shaped by the slow unfolding of nature's gifts. A story that deepens the connection between body and earth. This chapter leads naturally to the next stage of healing, where rituals, symbols, and spiritual beliefs merge with herbal wisdom to create the earliest sacred healing traditions. Sacred healing. Imagine a world where every sound felt alive, every shadow carried mystery, and every illness stirred questions far deeper than the body alone. In the earliest human communities, healing was not only an act of care, it was a bridge between the physical and the unseen, a meeting point between the body, the mind, the spirit, and the wider rhythms of nature. Healing was sacred. It carried meaning that ran deeper than pain and deeper than remedy. In these ancient societies, the healer was more than a caregiver. They were a guide, a listener, an interpreter of the invisible forces believed to shape human life. Picture a settlement of early humans gathered beneath a sky shimmering with stars. The night is quiet except for distant animal calls and the soft crackle of a communal fire. In the center of the gathering stands a healer. Their clothing is adorned with feathers, bones, or shells, each representing a connection to the world beyond ordinary sight. Their eyes reflect the firelight with calm intensity. The group around them watches with trust, knowing that the healer carries knowledge not only of herbs and wounds, but of the spirit and the unknown. In this world, illness was often understood as a disturbance in harmony. Something in the balance between body, mind, and environment had shifted. A fever might be seen as a sign that the body was fighting an invisible presence. A prolonged weakness might be linked to a loss of spiritual energy. Unexplained sickness could be attributed to emotional turmoil or disharmony within the group. Healing, therefore, required more than physical remedies. It required realignment, restoration, and a reconnection with the forces believed to sustain life. As the healer steps into the center of the space, they begin to prepare for a ritual. The group watches as they gather specific herbs known for their strong aroma. These herbs crackle softly when tossed into the flames, releasing smoke that curls into the night like a living spirit. The scent is sharp and purifying, filling the air with a sense of cleansing and renewal. The healer breathes in deeply, allowing the aroma to settle into their senses, preparing their mind for the work ahead. Rituals varied from place to place. In some communities, healing involved rhythmic drumming that echoed through the night. The drum beats created a steady pulse, guiding the minds of the participants into a calm, focused state. In others, the healer would whisper chants or sing songs passed down through generations. These melodies carried memories of ancestors and invoked the presence of unseen protectors. Sometimes the healer danced, their movements slow and deliberate, symbolizing the flow of energy through the body. In many traditions, water, smoke, fire, or earth played central roles, representing elements believed to cleanse or restore. As you breathe slowly, imagine the soft pulse of a distant drum. Each beat matches the slow rhythm of your heart. The sound is deep and grounding. It draws the community closer, uniting them in collective intention. The healer moves with the rhythm, their body swaying like tall grass in the wind. Their hands glide slowly through the air, as if shaping invisible threads. Their voice rises, low and melodic, weaving a story that speaks to the mind, the body, and the spirit. The person seeking healing sits near the fire, wrapped in a soft animal hide for warmth. Their eyes are closed. Their breath is uneven. Fear and uncertainty weigh upon them. The healer kneels beside them, placing a hand gently on their shoulder. This touch is deliberate and comforting. The healer speaks in a calm, steady tone, guiding the person into a restful state. In this moment, the healer's presence alone begins the process of healing. The mind quiets, the breath deepens, the body softens. Modern neuroscience recognizes that belief and expectation play powerful roles in healing. When a person trusts in a healer, their brain releases chemicals that reduce stress, ease pain, and support recovery. The rituals of ancient healers were not random. They were carefully shaped to create emotional safety, to reduce fear, and to guide the mind into a place where the body could heal. These practices soothed the nervous system, which in turn strengthened the immune response. Healing was not magic. It was the early human understanding of how deeply the mind and body are connected. Picture a ritual unfolding beneath the stars. The healer circles the fire, carrying a bowl filled with smoldering herbs. Smoke rises in soft plumes, swirling around them. They fan the smoke gently toward the person receiving healing, allowing the aroma to wash over them like a soothing wave. The scent is calming, grounding, and familiar. The healer chants quietly, the voice rising and falling like the wind. The words may have no literal meaning, but the tone is soothing. The rhythm is steady. The chant becomes a lullaby for the spirit. In some traditions, the healer might enter a trance, a deeply relaxed state that allowed them to focus inwardly. Their breathing becomes slow and deep. Their eyes close. Their body rocks gently. This trance was not unlike meditation. It allowed the healer to free their mind from distraction, to sense subtle shifts in the person they were helping. They observed changes in breath, facial tension, and posture. They felt the emotional atmosphere around them. In this state, the healer became fully present, offering undivided attention. The group around them participates as well. Some hum softly, others pray or speak quiet words of support. These communal acts reinforce the sense of belonging and safety. Illness is no longer an individual burden, but a shared experience. Healing becomes a collective effort. The mind responds to this unity, releasing fear and welcoming calm. The body follows. As you relax more deeply, imagine the healer using symbolic tools. A small bundle of feathers to sweep away negative energy. A carved stone passed along the body to absorb tension. A bowl of water reflecting the firelight as a symbol of clarity and renewal. These objects carried emotional meaning. Their presence reassured the person seeking healing, reminding them that they were cared for, protected, and guided. The healer's role extended beyond illness. They were often the storytellers, historians, and spiritual leaders of the community. They helped interpret dreams, which were believed to contain messages from ancestors or the spirit world. They performed rituals to bring rain, to bless new homes, or to mark transitions such as birth, adulthood, and death. They served as the emotional center of the community, helping people navigate the challenges of life through guidance and reflection. Imagine a moment when someone in the group faces deep grief. The loss of a loved one brings heavy silence. The healer gathers the community around the fire. They light fragrant herbs that release calming smoke. They speak softly about the continuity of life, honoring the one who has passed while comforting those who remain. Their words bring perspective. Their presence brings grounding. Healing in this form is emotional, spiritual, and deeply human. In many traditions, sacred healing also involved rituals of cleansing. Water symbolized purity and renewal. The healer might guide the sick person to a river or stream at dawn. The air is cool. The water reflects the first light of morning. They lower their hands into the water and let it wash over their fingers, feeling its cold clarity. They gently splash water across the person's arms or forehead, symbolizing the release of illness or negativity. This ritual offered a sense of fresh beginning, allowing the mind to reset and the body to find balance once more. Fire was another powerful symbol. Flames represented life, protection, and transformation. The healer might place small offerings into the fire, watching them burn as a representation of illness being carried away. The act itself created a sense of closure, helping the mind internalize the idea of healing. Rituals involving fire often included stories about renewal, about how flame consumes and purifies, leaving space for new strength to grow. Air, represented through breath, chants, and wind, symbolized spirit and clarity. Many rituals centered around breathing. The healer would guide the person to inhale deeply, filling the lungs with cool air, then exhale slowly, releasing tension. These practices prepared the mind for rest and the body for recovery. Even now, controlled breathing supports healing through its calming effect on the nervous system. Earth symbolized grounding, support, and stability. Some healers applied mud or clay to the body during rituals, believing that the earth absorbed illness. Others buried symbolic objects or touched the ground during prayers. These actions reinforced the connection between the individual and the world around them. As you breathe slowly, imagine the healer tracing circles in the dirt during a ritual. Their movements are patient and precise. They whisper words that carry the wisdom of generations. The air is still. The fire glows softly. The person receiving healing feels held by the presence of the earth beneath them, the sky above them, and the community around them. This sense of belonging becomes part of the healing itself. Sacred healing also embraced the power of story. The healer would speak of spirits that guided the forest, animals that watched over the tribe, and ancestors who offered protection from beyond the physical world. These stories offered comfort. They made illness less frightening by placing it within a larger narrative. Humans have always found peace in meaning. Stories allowed people to understand suffering through metaphor, helping them endure difficult experiences with resilience. Imagine the healer speaking softly to a child who is frightened by illness. They tell a story about a great tree that stands in the center of the forest, strong and unwavering. When storms rage, the tree bends but never breaks. Its roots hold firm in the earth, drawing nourishment from deep within. As the child listens, they imagine themselves as the tree, steady and resilient. The fear loosens. The body relaxes. Story becomes medicine. Sacred healing also addressed emotional wounds. Fear, anger, sadness, and loneliness were seen as disruptions in the spirit. Rituals were used to release these emotions. The healer might encourage someone to speak their feelings aloud, letting them drift into the night air. Or they might guide the person through a symbolic gesture, such as throwing a handful of leaves into the wind, or pressing their hands against the earth. These simple acts helped people make sense of inner turmoil. Imagine a member of the community struggling with deep sadness. They sit quietly beside the healer as dawn breaks. The sky shifts from darkness to soft gray, then to pale gold. The healer asks them to describe their feelings. The words flow slowly at first, then with more ease. The healer listens with full presence. Afterward, they lead the person to a small hill overlooking the valley. They hand them a handful of dried leaves and invite them to release their sorrow into the wind. As the leaves scatter, the person feels lighter, their burden shared with the world around them. Over time, sacred healing became woven into the identity of entire cultures. In some regions, It developed into shamanic traditions with elaborate rituals and deep symbolic meaning. In others, it evolved into systems of spiritual medicine that balanced physical remedies with emotional and energetic practices. Every community adapted healing to its own worldview, beliefs, and environment. The diversity of these traditions reflected the diversity of human experience. As the centuries passed, these spiritual practices formed the foundation upon which later medical systems were built. Even as civilizations developed more sophisticated knowledge of the body, the influence of sacred healing remained. Rituals persisted, symbols endured. The understanding that healing requires harmony between mind and body became a core belief in many ancient medical systems. As you relax further, imagine the healer resting after a long night of ritual. The fire has burned down to glowing embers. The stars fade as dawn approaches. The healer sits quietly, breathing slowly, their mind at peace. They have not cured every illness, but they have created comfort. They have eased fear. They have helped others feel seen, supported, and safe. In this world, healing is not measured only by physical recovery. It is measured by the return of calmness, connection, and meaning. Sacred healing represents a profound chapter in the story of medicine. It reflects humanity's need for comfort, not only in the body, but in the heart. It reveals how healing draws strength from belief, ritual, and community. It shows that the mind plays a powerful role in shaping our experience of illness and recovery. And it echoes still in modern understanding of stress, emotion, and the human need for connection. As you breathe gently, allow yourself to rest in the quiet wisdom of these ancient rituals. Feel the calm presence of the healer, the warmth of the fire, the soothing rhythm of drum beats fading into the night. The next part of this long journey leads into the world of great civilizations, where healing grows into organized knowledge and medicine begins to take shape in the structured halls of Egypt, India, China, Mesopotamia, and Greece. Civilizations of medicine. Imagine the moment when human communities began to grow beyond scattered groups of wanderers. Villages formed along rivers. Settlements rose in fertile lands where the soil was rich and the seasons predictable. People learned to cultivate crops, to store food for winter, to raise animals, and to build homes that stood for generations. In these places, life became more stable. With stability came curiosity. With curiosity came structure, and with structure came the great early civilizations, each shaping the story of healing in extraordinary ways. Picture the first great river valley civilizations: the Nile in Egypt, the Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, the Yellow River in China. Along these waters, people built cities of stone and mud brick. They carved symbols into clay. They measured time by the movement of stars and the flooding of rivers. They developed systems of writing, laws, mathematics, and architecture. And, within this growing complexity, they studied the human body and created the world's earliest organized medical traditions. Let your breath settle into a slow rhythm as we step into these ancient worlds. You are entering the halls where scribes recorded remedies on scrolls, where physicians examined the sick in quiet chambers, where temples became places of healing, and where knowledge traveled from one generation to the next through preserved texts and dedicated schools. Imagine the early morning light rising over the Nile. The river glows with soft gold, reflecting the sky's warmth. In the distance, tall stone temples stand like timeless guardians of knowledge. Inside these temples, ancient Egyptian physicians begin their day. They were among the first to separate healing into distinct roles. Some specialized in treating the eyes, others in stomach ailments, others in injuries of the limbs. They studied plant-based remedies, surgical techniques, and the workings of the body as observed through mummification. The Egyptians believed the body contained channels through which life force flowed. Illness occurred when these channels became blocked. To restore balance, they used herbs, oils, poultices, and careful observation. Their medical papyri, such as the Ebers and Edwin Smith manuscripts, contain instructions for diagnosing and treating injuries, infections, and internal conditions. They used honey to clean wounds, understanding its natural antibacterial qualities. They used moldy bread to prevent infection, a precursor to the discovery of antibiotics. They used willow for pain, aloe for burns, and a wide variety of herbs for digestion, fertility, and fever. Picture a physician in ancient Egypt. They sit beside a patient in a shaded courtyard, gently examining a swollen limb. They ask questions, observe posture, smell the breath, feel the pulse. Their movements are deliberate and thoughtful. They refer to scrolls filled with knowledge passed down through centuries. The physician mixes a remedy using herbs stored in clay jars, grinding them with a stone pestle. Their voice is calm as they explain how to apply the medicine, encouraging rest and proper diet. In this moment, healing is both practical and deeply human. Move now to Mesopotamia, where the earliest known medical texts were pressed into wet clay with a sharp reed. The air is warm and dry. The city is built of mud brick, with narrow streets winding between homes and temples. Here, healers blended rational remedies with spiritual practices. They believed illness could arise from natural causes, such as contaminated water or poor nutrition, but also from disturbances in unseen forces. Their approach combined physical treatment, prayer, and ritual cleansing. Mesopotamian physicians recognized symptoms and learned to predict the course of disease. They used poultices made of herbs and resins. They crafted ointments to soften the skin and soothe wounds. They recommended diets to balance the body. They kept records of cases, noting which treatments succeeded and which failed. Their clay tablets contain some of the earliest attempts to organize medical knowledge in a systematic way. Imagine walking into a Mesopotamian healing house. The walls are adorned with symbols. Shelves hold containers of herbs, powders, and oils. A tablet lies on a wooden table, engraved with cuneiform text describing remedies for fever or stomach pain. The healer sits nearby, mixing ingredients with careful hands. Their work blends medical observation with spiritual reassurance. They understand that healing requires attention to both the body and the mind. Travel now to ancient India, where one of the world's oldest continuous healing traditions developed. Ayurveda, the science of life, arose from profound philosophical inquiry into the nature of existence. It taught that health depends on balance between the body's energies, known as doshas. These energies influence digestion, vitality, mood, and resilience. When they fall out of balance, illness appears. The Ayurvedic healer's task was to restore harmony through herbs, diet, massage, breathing practices, and meditation. Imagine an Ayurvedic healer preparing a remedy. They sit in a peaceful courtyard filled with fragrant plants. Birds chirp in the trees. The air carries the scent of spices. The healer selects roots and leaves, grinding them into fine powders. They mix the powders with ghee or honey to create medicinal pastes. They examine the patient through touch and observation, feeling the pulse at multiple points on the wrist, each point representing an organ system. Their approach is holistic, seeing the person as an interconnected whole. They speak softly about lifestyle, diet, rest, and emotional balance. Healing here is both science and philosophy, a harmony of body and mind. Now picture ancient China, where another rich tradition of healing took shape. Traditional Chinese medicine viewed the body as a landscape of energy flows. Life force moved through pathways known as meridians, connecting organs and regulating health. Illness arose from disruptions in this flow, caused by imbalances between opposing forces within the body. To restore balance, healers used acupuncture, herbal medicine, dietary guidance, and movement practices, such as qigong. Imagine a Chinese healer examining a patient in a small, quiet room. They observe the color of the skin, the brightness of the eyes, the sound of the voice. They feel the pulse at 12 distinct points, each offering clues about energy flow. They choose herbs that complement the patient's condition, combining them into a formula customized for the individual. They place fine needles at specific points on the body, guiding energy back into alignment. Their work is meticulous, rooted in centuries of observation and reflection. Traditional Chinese medicine developed vast herbal pharmacopoeias, cataloging thousands of plants and their effects. These texts influenced medical practices across Asia and beyond, showing how deeply intertwined healing is with the natural environment and the rhythms of life. Now travel to ancient Greece, where healing took a different path. While earlier civilizations blended spiritual and practical approaches, the Greeks sought natural explanations for illness. Hippocrates, often called the father of medicine, believed that disease arose from imbalances in bodily fluids and environmental factors rather than supernatural causes. He emphasized careful observation, diet, lifestyle, and ethical practice. Imagine Hippocrates walking through a Greek healing sanctuary. The air is warm. Olive trees sway gently in the breeze. The walls of the sanctuary are covered with inscriptions from patients who found relief there. Hippocrates studies each case with precision, observing symptoms, listening to the patient's experiences, and considering the influence of climate, season, and habits. His teachings encouraged physicians to treat the whole person, not just the illness. They were to be humble, ethical, and dedicated to lifelong learning. Greek physicians made detailed anatomical observations through the study of wounded soldiers. They learned to set bones, treat infections, and perform simple surgeries. They recognized the importance of cleanliness and diet. Their writings influenced medical practice for centuries, shaping the scientific foundations of modern Western medicine. As your breath deepens, imagine walking through these ancient worlds, each filled with its own healing philosophy. Egypt with its structured medical texts. Mesopotamia with its blend of physical and spiritual care. India with its profound holistic principles. China with its intricate understanding of energy and balance. Greece with its pursuit of rational explanation and ethical practice. Each civilization contributed a piece to the puzzle of medicine, expanding humanity's understanding of health and the body. Knowledge traveled across deserts, mountains, and seas through trade routes. Merchants carried herbs, spices, and remedies from one region to another. Physicians learned from one another as ideas flowed between cultures. Scrolls and manuscripts were copied, translated, and shared. Wisdom accumulated like layers of sediment, forming a rich foundation for future discoveries. Imagine a traveler from Greece arriving in Egypt, exchanging ideas with local healers. They compare their approaches, discussing herbal remedies, surgical techniques, and philosophies of health. Their conversation reflects the growing interconnectedness of the ancient world. These exchanges laid the groundwork for the global nature of medicine that exists today. In these civilizations, healing became a respected profession. Physicians trained apprentices. They studied texts, practiced techniques, and refined their skills over years of careful observation. Hospitals emerged as centers of learning and care. Temples dedicated to healing became places where people sought rest, treatment, and spiritual guidance. Rituals and remedies intertwined, creating a holistic approach that addressed both physical and emotional needs. Picture a healing temple in Greece, dedicated to Asclepius, the god of medicine. Pilgrims arrive seeking relief from illness or pain. They sleep in quiet chambers, believing that dreams would reveal insights into their health. Priests interpreted these dreams, offering guidance and remedies. The environment itself supported healing. Calm surroundings, warm baths, fresh air, gentle movement. These practices foreshadow modern approaches to therapeutic environments and the impact of rest on recovery. In India and China, medical schools were established where students studied texts, practiced diagnostic techniques, and learned from experienced practitioners. They trained for years, developing sensitivity to subtle signs of imbalance. Their work required patience, attention, and a deep understanding of both body and spirit. As you drift deeper into relaxation, imagine standing at the center of these great civilizations. Feel the wisdom flowing through centuries of inquiry. Hear the quiet murmur of healers discussing remedies. Smell the aroma of herbs drying in warm sunlight. See the careful hands of physicians examining patients with respect and compassion. The story of healing becomes a tapestry woven from countless threads of culture, environment, philosophy, and curiosity. Each of these civilizations pushed the boundaries of medical knowledge. They documented diseases. They recorded effective treatments. They developed surgical tools. They explored the connections between mind, body, and environment. Their insights resonate even now, forming the roots of modern medical practice. And yet, even as their knowledge grew, one great mystery remained: the human body itself. What lay beneath the skin? How did organs function? How were blood, nerves, and muscles arranged? The answers to these questions would lead humanity into the next chapter of healing, a chapter that required extraordinary courage and curiosity. As your breath settles, imagine the world shifting once more. New questions rise. New discoveries await. The story now moves toward the dawn of anatomical exploration, where humans begin to map the body from the inside, unlocking secrets that had remained hidden since the beginning of time. The anatomy revolution. Imagine a time when humans had mastered fire, farming, and craftsmanship, yet still walked through life without truly knowing what existed beneath their own skin. For thousands of years, the inner workings of the human body remained a great mystery. People observed wounds, watched fevers rise and fall, saw bones break and mend. But the structure beneath the surface was hidden behind a barrier of fear, reverence, and taboo. To open the body was to cross into a realm few dared explore. But slowly, across centuries, curiosity began to outweigh hesitation. A profound shift began. Humanity turned its gaze inward. Picture the world at the dawn of anatomical inquiry. Stone temples rise across Egypt. Marble statues stand in Greece. Scholars gather in India, Persia, and China to study life's deepest questions. Healing has become an art supported by observation and tradition. But one essential piece is still missing: the map of the human form itself. Physicians understand symptoms, remedies, and patterns, Yet the true architecture of the body remains hidden. In this moment of uncertainty, a new age begins to bloom. An age shaped by brave individuals willing to look deeper. Let your breath soften as we step into ancient Egypt, where some of the earliest glimpses into anatomy were formed through the process of mummification. The air is warm and dry. Resin and incense fill the room with thick, fragrant smoke. Skilled embalmers move with practiced precision. They remove organs, clean them, and preserve them in jars. Though their purpose is spiritual rather than scientific, their hands learn the placement of the heart, the liver, the lungs, and the stomach. They understand the body as a network of channels that carry vital substances. They do not dissect for study, but their work quietly seeds anatomical knowledge that will ripple through time. Now imagine ancient Greece, centuries later. Scholars gather beneath open skies, scrolls in hand, discussing the nature of life. Hippocrates and his followers emphasize rational thought, observation, and ethical practice. They speak of humors and balance, of organs and systems, yet much is still unknown. The Greeks hesitate to cut the human body due to cultural beliefs about purity and respect for the dead. Instead, they rely on observations of wounded soldiers and animal dissections. Their knowledge grows, but the true picture of human anatomy remains incomplete. As your breath deepens, think of Herophilus and Erasistratus in Alexandria, among the boldest early anatomists. In a time when the city's library held thousands of scrolls and scholars from across the world gathered in its courtyards, these two physicians performed some of the first recorded human dissections. They observed the brain, the nerves, the blood vessels, and the organs with a clarity never seen before. Herophilus described the brain as the seat of intelligence, challenging centuries of belief that placed thought in the heart. Erasistratus studied the heart's chambers and valves, understanding that it functioned as a pump. Their discoveries were extraordinary, but the world was not ready. Cultural and political pressures silenced their work, and for centuries afterwards, dissections became rare once more. Imagine standing beside them in an ancient room lit by oil lamps. The air is still. Their tools are simple, made of bronze and iron. Their eyes are sharp with focus. They peel back layers of mystery, one careful cut at a time. Their observations challenge the beliefs of their era, and yet their courage lays the first true stones in the foundation of anatomical science. Centuries pass. Empires rise and fall. Knowledge grows and fades, only to reawaken in different forms. The torch of inquiry flickers across time. In medieval Europe, dissections are heavily restricted, yet physicians such as Mondino de Liuzzi begin to revive the practice. Picture a cold stone hall in Bologna. Students gather around a table as Mondino leads a rare public dissection. The body lies beneath a dim light. The air is heavy with incense meant to mask the scent. Mondino reads from ancient texts, matching what he sees with what is written. Sometimes the body confirms the text, other times it contradicts it. In each case, knowledge deepens. Even with these early efforts, anatomical understanding remains bound by tradition. Much of the ancient Greek physician Galen's work, based primarily on animal dissections, dominates European medicine. His texts describe organs in ways that do not always match human anatomy, yet his authority is so great that few question him. Physicians repeat his teachings for more than 1,000 years. The body waits silently, holding truths that will not be discovered until someone dares to look directly and with absolute honesty. Now imagine the world shifting into the Renaissance. curiosity expands once more. Art, science, and philosophy flourish together, and the human body becomes a subject of profound fascination. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci seek to understand the body not only for medical purposes, but to capture its beauty, its motion, its proportions. Leonardo performs dissections in secret, sketching muscles, bones, and organs with unmatched detail. His drawings reveal the complexity of the human form with breathtaking accuracy. Though not widely published in his lifetime, his work illuminates the path for future anatomists. Let your breath slow as we step into one of the most transformative moments in the history of medicine, the work of Andreas Vesalius. The year is 1543. In a grand hall in Padua, young medical students gather as Vesalius prepares to demonstrate a dissection. The room quiets. The tension is almost reverent. Vesalius opens the body not to confirm ancient texts, but to see the truth for himself. He discovers structures Galen misdescribed. He finds organs placed differently than expected. He realizes that centuries of medical knowledge need correction. Vesalius begins meticulously documenting his findings in an illustrated book, De Humani Corporis Fabrica, the fabric of the human body. Its pages contain some of the most accurate anatomical drawings the world has ever seen. Muscles appear layer by layer. Bones are shown in perfect proportion. Organs are drawn with striking realism. These images spread across Europe, changing the way scholars understand the body. Vesalius emphasizes direct observation, hands-on study, and the courage to question what came before. Anatomy becomes a science grounded in evidence, not tradition. Imagine the quiet intensity of his work, the smell of ink, the scratch of quill on parchment, the bodies prepared with care, his hands steady, his mind clear. Each discovery reshapes understanding. Each correction challenges centuries of belief. His courage opens the door to the modern study of the body. From Vesalius onward, anatomy becomes a central part of medical education. Students gather in amphitheaters, watching dissections performed by skilled anatomists. In these spaces, the mysteries of the body unfold. The heart is revealed as a strong rhythmic organ driving blood through vessels. The lungs are shown to expand and contract with breath. The liver, spleen, kidneys, and intestines are mapped with unprecedented clarity. Muscles are traced from their origins to their insertions. Nerves are mapped like delicate threads connecting every part of the body to the brain. With each discovery, humanity gains power over illness. Physicians begin to understand how injuries affect specific structures. Surgeons develop more precise techniques. The ability to save lives grows. Slowly, the fear surrounding dissections fades. Respect remains, but curiosity becomes stronger. As you breathe deeply, imagine wandering through a Renaissance anatomy theater. The room is circular, with tiered wooden seats rising upward like waves. Scholars lean over the railing, sketching what they see. Candles flicker, casting warm light across the scene. The air carries a mix of anticipation and reverence. The anatomist stands at the center, surrounded by instruments. Each cut is deliberate. Each movement reveals another layer of knowledge. The hum of whispers fills the hall as students compare notes, their minds awakening to the complexity of the human body. Outside of Europe, anatomy evolves as well. In the Islamic Golden Age, scholars such as Ibn Sina and Al-Razi write detailed descriptions of organs and physiological processes. Their texts become foundational for centuries. In India, Ayurvedic practitioners map the body through pulse diagnosis and careful observation of systems. In China, practitioners describe meridians that connect organ systems, understanding the body as an integrated network of energy and structure. Though their approaches differ, each culture contributes to a deeper understanding of human life. Now imagine standing at the threshold of the modern age. The printing press spreads anatomical knowledge across continents. New tools emerge, such as magnifying lenses and early microscopes. Physicians begin to see that the body is not only made of organs, but of tissues and cells. The anatomical revolution sets the stage for another transformation, one that reaches even deeper into the invisible world within. As your breath smooths into a gentle rhythm, imagine the sense of awe that scholars felt when they grasped the full structure of the human body for the first time. The heart beating with precision, the brain with its intricate folds and infinite capacity, the lungs expanding like wings, the digestive system twisting like a river through the torso, bones forming the architecture of life, all of it connected, all of it purposeful. The anatomy revolution was not merely the study of structure. It was the moment when humanity truly began to understand itself. The moment when the body ceased to be a mysterious vessel and became a map we could explore. A map that allowed us to diagnose, treat, operate, and heal with increasing accuracy. Imagine the emotional impact of this knowledge. For thousands of years, people lived in fear of illness, injury, and death, unable to understand what happened beneath the skin. Suddenly, the mysteries were unfolding. Light was entering the darkest corners of human understanding. The body became a universe of form and movement, a landscape as complex as any valley, river, or mountain range. The courage of anatomists brought clarity to generations. This shift changed everything. It shaped the future of surgery, medicine, physiology, and healing. It laid the groundwork for discoveries about circulation, infection, and disease. It ushered in the next great era, where inquiry, curiosity, and the scientific method illuminated the world even further. As you rest, imagine this turning point stretching through time like a bridge. Behind it lies a world of instinct, ritual, and early remedies. Ahead waits a world of experimentation, innovation, and scientific precision. You are now ready to cross into the age of inquiry, where ancient wisdom merges with new discovery, and medicine begins its journey toward the modern form we know today. The age of inquiry. Imagine the world entering a new dawn, a time when the embers of ancient knowledge were rekindled by the flames of curiosity. After centuries in which learning moved slowly, a new era began to rise, shaped by scholars, healers, and thinkers who sought to understand the body and the natural world with fresh eyes. This was a time of translation, discovery, preservation, and innovation. A time when human curiosity stretched across continents, weaving together the wisdom of many civilizations. This was the age of inquiry, and it would fundamentally reshape the story of medicine. Picture the world around the 10th to 12th centuries. Trade routes wind like threads across deserts, mountains, and seas. Caravans travel from Asia to the Middle East, carrying spices, silks, manuscripts, and ideas. Ships cross the Mediterranean, bringing scholars from Greece, Persia, Egypt, India, and beyond into conversation with one another. In bustling cities illuminated by lanterns and lined with markets, new knowledge hums beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered. Imagine walking through the streets of Baghdad during the height of the Islamic Golden Age. The air is warm and rich with the scent of spices. The city is alive with conversation. Scholars move through narrow alleyways carrying scrolls. Physicians discuss complex ideas in open courtyards. Students gather in grand libraries where the shelves are stacked with thousands of manuscripts from across the known world. At the heart of this intellectual flourishing stands the House of Wisdom, an extraordinary center of learning. Here, scholars translate ancient Greek, Egyptian, Indian, and Persian medical texts into Arabic. They preserve knowledge that might otherwise have been lost. They compare ideas, correct errors, and expand on theories. The atmosphere is one of reverence for knowledge and an unshakable belief that the world can be understood through observation, reason, and inquiry. As your breath slows, imagine stepping inside this building. Sunlight filters through carved windows. Scholars sit at long wooden tables, dipping quill pens into ink. They read aloud in calm, steady voices. The scratch of writing fills the air. On one table lies a copy of Hippocrates' writings. On another, an Indian Ayurvedic text. On another, a scroll describing Chinese herbal formulas. The blending of these traditions creates a new landscape of understanding. Among the great thinkers of this era stands Al-Razi, known in the West as Rhazes. Picture him in his study, surrounded by books, examining patients with a keen, compassionate eye. He writes detailed descriptions of diseases, distinguishing between conditions that earlier healers had confused. He separates smallpox from measles, noting differences in symptoms, course, and severity. His observations are so accurate that they guide physicians for centuries. Al-Razi emphasizes careful examination and scientific reasoning. He rejects superstition and urges healers to rely on evidence. He believes that the physician's role is to guide nature's own healing processes, working with the body rather than against it. His contributions shape the future of clinical medicine. Now imagine Ibn Sina, known as Avicenna, in his quiet study late at night. A small oil lamp flickers beside him as he writes the Canon of Medicine, one of the most influential medical books in history. His mind moves with extraordinary clarity. He organizes knowledge into a comprehensive system, describing symptoms, causes, treatments, and preventative measures. He studies anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, and psychology. His work blends logic, science, and philosophy, reflecting a deep understanding that the body cannot be separated from the mind. His canon becomes a central medical text across Asia, the Middle East, and Europe for nearly 1,000 years. Picture its pages filled with precise observations, herbal remedies, ethical principles, and descriptions of how emotions and habits influence health. Ibn Sina understood that illness is multifaceted, shaped by lifestyle, environment, and mental state. His holistic approach resonates even in modern medicine. As you listen, imagine the world of Persia, where physicians build some of the earliest hospitals that resemble modern institutions. These hospitals contain wards for different illnesses, pharmacies, lecture halls, and libraries. Students learn by observing experienced physicians. Patients receive care free of charge, reflecting a belief that medicine should serve all people. This spirit of compassion and inquiry becomes a guiding force in the evolution of healing. Move now to the medieval world of Europe, where knowledge flows slowly at first. Many ancient texts are lost or forgotten, but through trade, contact with the Islamic world, and the translations emerging from Spain and Sicily, European healers gain access to the medical texts of Greece, Rome, India, and the Middle East. Monasteries become centers of preservation, copying manuscripts by hand. Over time, medical schools emerge. Imagine the University of Montpellier in France or Salerno in Italy. Students gather in stone halls to study anatomy, herbal remedies, and the teachings of Hippocrates, Galen, and Ibn Sina. Professors lecture from hand-copied books. They emphasize observation and humility. They discuss the importance of air, water, and living conditions. Though limited in resources, these schools lay the foundation for a new era of structured medical education. As your breath deepens, picture the European Middle Ages as a time of transition. Physicians study older texts with reverence, but some begin to question their limitations. They observe patients with their own eyes. They seek patterns. They note contradictions. They slowly move toward a more empirical understanding of disease. Though progress is slow, the mindset begins to shift from blind acceptance to mindful inquiry. Across the world in India, Ayurveda continues to develop. New texts expand on older traditions. Surgeons learn to perform complex operations, including early forms of plastic surgery. They use herbal antiseptics, understand the importance of hygiene, and develop tools that resemble modern surgical instruments. In China, healers refine acupuncture, herbal formulas, and diagnostic pulse reading. Texts like the Huangdi Neijing, the Yellow Emperor's Inner Canon, guide physicians for thousands of years. Their understanding of balance, emotion, and lifestyle continues to shape healing traditions around the world. As you imagine these civilizations evolving, picture knowledge flowing like a river. It moves from one culture to another. It branches into new streams. It gathers strength through interpretation, challenge, and discovery. The age of inquiry is not a single place or moment. It is a movement of thought, a shift toward asking questions, seeking evidence, and valuing the pursuit of understanding. Now imagine the invention of universities in Europe. Scholars gather not only to preserve knowledge, but to generate new ideas. Anatomy becomes central once more. Experiments begin. Tools improve. Physicians slowly turn away from superstition and toward rational explanation. As the 13th and 14th centuries unfold, a quiet momentum builds. The seeds planted during the Islamic Golden Age, the intellectual roots from ancient civilizations, and the rediscovery of Greek and Roman texts all converge to spark something extraordinary. As your breath rises and falls gently, imagine standing at the edge of this transformation. You are at a threshold between old and new ways of understanding. Behind you lies centuries of traditional knowledge, herbal wisdom, sacred rituals, and scattered anatomical observations. Ahead lies a future shaped by experimentation, scientific method, and the systematic study of the natural world. The age of inquiry teaches humanity to ask why and how. It teaches that truth is found through careful observation rather than authority. It encourages the blending of knowledge across cultures. It lays the intellectual foundation for the Renaissance, a time when the human body would finally be studied with boldness and accuracy. Imagine scholars gathered in candlelit rooms, debating new theories. Imagine merchants carrying medical manuscripts across seas. Imagine healers from different traditions exchanging remedies and philosophies. Imagine libraries expanding with newly translated works. The world begins to hum with the energy of curiosity. This era becomes the bridge between ancient wisdom and modern science. It paves the way for anatomical breakthroughs, for discoveries about blood circulation, for insights into infection, and eventually for the birth of the scientific revolution. As you sink deeper into ease, imagine standing at the dawn of the Renaissance, where the next great transformation awaits. The human body is about to be rediscovered with unprecedented clarity. Art and science will merge, curiosity will intensify, and healing will move into an era of remarkable illumination. the Renaissance body. Imagine the world transforming. Cities are growing. Trade routes are bustling with merchants, scholars, and travelers. The printing press begins to spread ideas faster than ever before. Artists study light, form, and proportion with breathtaking precision. Architects design structures that echo both strength and elegance. Every corner of society is awakening. Curiosity expands, not softly or slowly, but like a tide rising with unstoppable force. This is the Renaissance, a rebirth of knowledge, creativity, and inquiry. And at the heart of this unfolding world lies a new fascination with the human body. Picture Italy in the 15th century. Stone streets warmed by the sun, markets filled with voices and color, workshops where artisans craft sculptures that seem to breathe with life. In this environment, the body becomes a subject of admiration, study, and inquiry. Artists want to depict its movements accurately. Philosophers want to understand its nature. Physicians want to uncover its hidden mechanisms. The era becomes a turning point where science and art merge, each illuminating the other. Let your breath settle as we step into a quiet workshop in Florence. The room smells of oil paints, ink, and freshly cut wood. A man sits before a wooden table, sketching with sharp focus. His name is Leonardo da Vinci. His hands move with fluid precision as he draws muscles, tendons, and bones with astonishing detail. His notebooks are filled with thousands of anatomical sketches, each one more intricate than the last. He studies corpses in secret, observing how joints move, how the heart is shaped, how the brain folds into complex patterns. He draws the fetus curled in the womb, the delicate structure of the spine, the layered arrangement of the muscles. Though his work remains unpublished in his lifetime, it forms one of the most extraordinary anatomical archives in history. Imagine standing beside him. The dim light of candles flickers gently across the room. The quiet scratch of his pen fills the air. His eyes are thoughtful, filled with wonder at the complexity before him. His drawings reflect not only scientific accuracy, but deep reverence. He believes the body is a masterpiece, a reflection of both physical engineering and profound beauty. His work captures the essence of the Renaissance spirit, the belief that understanding the human form is essential to understanding the nature of life itself. Now imagine another figure emerging in this transformative era, Andreas Vesalius, a young physician trained in Padua. Vesalius challenges tradition with boldness. He questions the teachings of Galen, the revered ancient physician whose ideas dominated medicine for more than 1,000 years. Galen's work, based on animal rather than human dissections, contains errors Vesalius cannot ignore. Where others would accept tradition without question, Vesalius investigates the body directly. Picture Vesalius in a crowded anatomy theater. Students gather around him in a circular room with tiered wooden seats rising toward the ceiling. The air is thick with anticipation. The body lies at the center of the theater. Vesalius begins the dissection calmly and precisely. Each cut reveals new truths. Each layer contradicts or confirms ancient teachings. His voice guides the students as he points to structures Galen misdescribed. He shows how the human body differs from animals in ways that change the understanding of organs, nerves, and vessels. His work leads to the creation of one of the most influential medical texts ever written, De Humani Corporis Fabrica. Its pages are filled with detailed anatomical illustrations, drawn with artistic skill and scientific accuracy. Muscles appear layered like petals of a flower. Bones stand in perfect proportion. Organs are rendered with clarity. This book becomes a cornerstone of modern anatomy, inspiring generations of physicians to rely on direct observation rather than tradition. As your breath flows gently, imagine turning through the pages of Vesalius's masterpiece. Each illustration reveals the intricate harmony of the human body. You see the branching of veins and arteries, the structure of the heart's chambers, the complexity of the digestive system, the delicate network of nerves that bridges sensation and movement. Vesalius's work shifts the entire foundation of medicine from speculation to direct experience. The Renaissance becomes a turning point, not only for anatomy, but for the entire understanding of health. Physicians begin to study physiology, the function of organs and systems. They explore how the heart beats, how the lungs fill with air, how the circulatory system distributes life-sustaining blood. They question long-held beliefs and adopt new methods of inquiry. The scientific method, though not yet fully formalized, takes shape through experimentation and careful observation. Picture William Harvey in 17th century England, a physician fascinated by the heart. The prevailing belief is that blood ebbs and flows in the body, consumed by organs as fuel. But Harvey suspects something more elegant. He studies the heart of animals, observing how it contracts and pumps. He measures the volume of blood and realizes the impossibility of the old theories. With a calm and determined mind, he discovers the truth. The heart is a pump, driving blood in a continuous circuit through the arteries and veins. This discovery reshapes medical understanding completely and marks the beginning of modern physiology. As you breathe slowly, imagine how revolutionary this realization must have felt. For millennia, the workings of the heart were misunderstood. Suddenly, the body is seen as a dynamic system with circulation, movement, rhythm, and order. Harvey's work deepens humanity's understanding of life itself and lays the foundation for future discoveries in cardiovascular medicine. But the Renaissance body is more than anatomy and physiology. It reflects a growing belief that the human experience is shaped by the environment, emotions, and the interplay between physical and spiritual forces. Physicians begin to emphasize hygiene, fresh air, exercise, and balanced diet. They study the effects of weather, seasons, and lifestyle. Healing becomes more holistic once more, blending the insights of ancient traditions with emerging scientific knowledge. Imagine a physician walking through a Renaissance garden. Aromatic herbs grow in neat rows. Medicinal plants such as rosemary, sage, fennel, and lavender fill the air with a gentle scents. The physician understands that these herbs support digestion, calm the mind, ease inflammation, or strengthen the lungs. They recommend warm baths infused with herbs, walks through fresh air, and diets rich in fruits and vegetables. Their approach reflects a balance between natural remedies and the new scientific understanding of the body. This era also sees the rise of hospitals and medical schools, where knowledge is shared openly. Students observe dissections, learn surgical techniques, and study anatomy from beautifully illustrated books. Surgeons refine their skills. Barbers, who often performed surgeries, begin to transition into the more regulated medical profession. Instruments improve. Techniques become more precise. The body becomes a subject not only of wonder, but of careful, methodical study. European cities begin to regulate public health, recognizing that environmental conditions influence disease. Cleanliness, waste management, and ventilation become part of urban planning. Though rudimentary by modern standards, These changes represent a growing awareness of how communities affect individual health. Medicine begins to expand beyond the body, considering the broader context of human life. As you relax further, imagine being in a Renaissance apothecary, shelves lined with jars of herbs, minerals, and powders. A mortar and pestle sits on a wooden table, worn smooth by years of use. The apothecary mixes remedies with steady hands, drawing from both ancient knowledge and newer discoveries. The air is filled with scents of mint, chamomile, and dried flowers. People come seeking relief for coughs, fevers, digestive issues, and wounds. Healing becomes a blend of tradition and innovation, shaped by a deeper understanding of nature and the body. The Renaissance also brings advances in surgery. Surgeons develop better tools made of steel. They learn to amputate more safely. They study the effects of blood loss and shock. Though anesthesia and antiseptics are still centuries away, these incremental improvements save countless lives. Some surgeons begin to stitch wounds rather than cauterize them, reducing trauma and improving healing. These techniques reflect a shift toward precision and care. As your breath softens, imagine observing a surgeon preparing for an operation in a Renaissance hospital. The room is simple. The tools are laid out carefully. The patient is supported by attendants who hold their hands and whisper comforting words. The surgeon works with concentration, guided by anatomical knowledge from Vesalius's texts. Every movement is deliberate, every decision thoughtful. Healing remains risky, but progress is visible. This era also inspires philosophical reflections on the body. Thinkers like Descartes explore the relationship between mind and body, proposing that the two interact in complex and mysterious ways. Though some of his ideas are flawed, they stimulate further inquiry into consciousness, emotions, and the nervous system. These early questions about the mind's influence on the body will one day lead to entire fields of psychology and neuroscience. Imagine sitting in a quiet chamber where scholars debate the nature of sensation, movement, and thought. They wonder how nerves transmit information, how the brain shapes perception, how emotions influence physical health. Though they do not yet have answers, their questions mark the beginning of a long journey toward understanding the inner workings of the nervous system. As knowledge expands, the Renaissance body becomes a symbol of both scientific potential and human beauty. Artists and physicians collaborate. Drawings of muscles and bones appear in art studios and medical schools alike. The line between science and creativity blurs. Bodies depicted in sculptures and paintings reflect an understanding of anatomy that brings them to life. Michelangelo paints figures with muscles shaped by real anatomical study. His sculptures reveal the tension, strength, and grace of the human form. Art and medicine move in harmony. Picture a sculptor in a workshop, chiseling marble with precision. Each strike reveals a curve of muscle or bone. They study cadavers alongside medical students, learning how the body bends, stretches, and supports itself. Their work captures the essence of life, reflecting both anatomical truth and artistic interpretation. The Renaissance body becomes a celebration of human potential, resilience, and beauty. This period represents a profound shift in the story of healing. It bridges ancient wisdom with modern science. It encourages questioning, experimentation, and the pursuit of evidence. It lays the foundation for discoveries that will transform medicine in the centuries to come. Discoveries about infection, immunity, disease, and the microscopic world hidden from the naked eye. As your breath settles into an even flow, imagine standing at the threshold of the next chapter. You have walked through a world of ancient healers, sacred rituals, herbal remedies, and anatomical revelations. Now, humanity is about to enter a new era of understanding, an era shaped by microscopes, germ theory, vaccines, and breakthroughs that protect lives on a scale never before imagined. The Renaissance body opens the door to the birth of modern medicine, where healing moves from tradition to science, from guesswork to precision, and from mystery to clarity. The story continues. The birth of modern medicine. Imagine the world entering a century of extraordinary change, a time when curiosity turns its gaze not only upon the body's visible structures, but into the invisible realms hidden beneath them. The Renaissance had illuminated anatomy. It had revealed the architecture of muscles, bones, and organs. But the greatest mysteries still waited in places too small for the naked eye to see. Illnesses still swept through cities uncontrollably. Fevers claimed lives in a matter of days. Wounds festered. Surgery was dangerous. Women died in childbirth. Children succumbed to infections that seemed to appear from nowhere. The world needed more than anatomy. It needed understanding of the unseen forces causing disease. This chapter begins with the emergence of tools and ideas that shifted medicine from observation to investigation. A revolution that unfolded slowly at first, then all at once, changing everything people believed about sickness, cleanliness, immunity, and the nature of life itself. This is the story of microscopes, germs, vaccines, anesthesia, antiseptic methods, and the rise of scientific medicine that shapes the modern world. Take a slow breath as we step into 17th century Europe, where a Dutch cloth merchant named Antony van Leeuwenhoek begins polishing tiny glass lenses, not for science, but for inspecting fabric threads. These lenses are small, clear, and curved with remarkable precision. When Leeuwenhoek holds them to the light, he sees tiny details invisible to others. His curiosity grows. He places droplets of water beneath the lens and peers through. What he sees changes history. Picture him leaning over a small wooden stand, adjusting a droplet of pond water beneath his lens. The room is quiet. The morning light streams through the window. As he brings the droplet into focus, dancing shapes appear, minute creatures, swimming and twisting, alive and abundant. He calls them animalcules, little animals. For the first time in human history, the microscopic world is revealed. Tiny organisms no one had imagined fill the water, the soil, and even the human body. Leeuwenhoek writes letters describing his discoveries. Scientists of the time read them with disbelief. But slowly, evidence grows. Microscopy evolves. The invisible begins to appear. This is the beginning of understanding that illness may be caused not by spirits or imbalance, but by microscopic life. Now imagine the world shifting into the 18th century. Cities are crowded. Markets bustle. People live close together. Disease spreads easily. One illness in particular casts a dark shadow across society. Smallpox. It scars the skin. It blinds. It kills millions. It moves through populations with relentless power. Fear surrounds it. Parents pray their children will survive outbreaks. Communities shut their gates. Entire regions are changed by its presence. Yet in the quiet corners of rural England, a gentle observation begins to grow. Dairymaids who contract cowpox, a mild, harmless disease, seem resistant to smallpox. Their skin remains smooth. Their health remains intact. This pattern captures the attention of Edward Jenner, a physician with calm curiosity and a mind open to possibility. Imagine Jenner watching a young dairymaid with hands marked by cowpox lesions. She tells him confidently that she will never get smallpox. Jenna wonders how such a simple infection could protect against a deadly one. He begins to consider a revolutionary idea. What if exposure to a harmless disease could train the body to resist a more dangerous one? What if the body had its own memory, a way of learning and defending itself? Jenner's gentle experiments eventually prove this theory true. He introduces cowpox material into a young boy's arm, causing only mild symptoms. Weeks later, he exposes the boy to smallpox. The boy remains healthy. The first vaccine is born. The world changes quietly and then dramatically. Over the next centuries, vaccination saves more lives than almost any other medical innovation. The idea that the body can build its own armor becomes central to modern medicine. As you breathe slowly, imagine the sense of hope this discovery must have brought. For generations, people lived in fear of diseases they could not see, predict, or control. Jenner's work illuminated a path toward prevention, a path that would eventually lead to vaccines for countless illnesses. But prevention was only one part of the revolution. Another great challenge remained: surgery. In the early 19th century, surgery was brutal. Operations were performed without anesthesia. Patients were held down by assistants as surgeons worked quickly, often in a race against agony. Infection ravaged wounds. Many patients who survived the knife did not survive the days that followed. Surgeons became known more for speed than precision. Then in the mid-19th century, a quiet miracle entered the operating room: anesthesia. Ether, chloroform, and nitrous oxide began to remove pain from surgery. Imagine a patient lying on a wooden table, trembling with fear. A surgeon approaches with a cloth soaked in ether. The scent is sharp and sweet. The patient breathes deeply, and their body slowly relaxes. For the first time in history, surgery can be performed without suffering. Surgeons slow down. They become more careful. They explore deeper. They innovate. Yet even with anesthesia, another unseen enemy remains: infection. Surgical tools are reused without cleaning. Doctors move from patient to patient without washing their hands. Wounds become red, swollen, and fatal. Then comes the work of Ignaz Semmelweis, a Hungarian physician who notices something troubling in a maternity ward. Women cared for by doctors have higher death rates than those attended by midwives. He observes that doctors move directly from autopsies to childbirth without washing their hands. Semmelweis suspects that particles carried on their hands cause deadly fevers. Imagine him standing at a basin, instructing other physicians to wash with chloride solution before touching patients. Death rates plummet. Women recover. But his ideas are met with resistance. Many physicians reject the implication that their hands are unclean. Semmelweis's insight is ahead of its time, but his work plants seeds that will later flourish. Those seeds grow when Louis Pasteur begins investigating fermentation and spoilage. His experiments reveal that microorganisms, bacteria, are responsible for processes once attributed to spontaneous generation. Pasteur's work confirms that microscopic life is everywhere, and that these tiny organisms cause disease. Joseph Lister takes this revelation into the operating room. He uses carbolic acid to sterilize instruments, wounds, and air. Infection rates drop dramatically. Surgeons begin adopting antiseptic techniques. A new era of safety emerges. For the first time, surgery becomes reliable, predictable, and survivable. As your breath deepens, imagine the relief this brought to a world long haunted by infection. Wounds that once meant death now heal. Mothers survive childbirth. Soldiers survive battlefield injuries. Surgery evolves into a respected, precise discipline. Cleanliness becomes a core principle of medicine. The 19th century continues to bloom with discovery. Robert Koch isolates the bacteria responsible for tuberculosis and cholera. He develops methods to grow bacteria in pure culture, making it possible to link specific microbes to specific diseases. His work forms the basis of germ theory. Suddenly, the causes of illness are no longer mysterious shadows. They are identifiable, observable, and treatable. With this new understanding, medicine transforms. Hospitals adopt sanitation protocols. Public health initiatives improve water supply and waste disposal. Life expectancy rises. Communities become healthier. Doctors move from treating symptoms to addressing causes. Science becomes the guiding light of healing. The late 19th and early 20th centuries bring even more breakthroughs. Florence Nightingale revolutionizes nursing, emphasizing cleanliness, ventilation, and compassionate care. Her work during the Crimean War reduces mortality rates dramatically. She proves that the environment shapes recovery, laying the foundations for modern nursing practice. Picture Nightingale walking through dimly lit hospital wards, carrying a lamp. Her movements are gentle, deliberate, and attentive. She comforts the wounded, organizes supplies, and introduces hygiene practices that save countless lives. Her approach reminds us that healing is not only about techniques, it is also about presence, dignity, and humanity. As you relax deeper, imagine the world shifting into the 20th century. Microscopes become more powerful. Scientists discover viruses, organisms even smaller than bacteria. Labs isolate insulin, saving the lives of those with diabetes. X-rays reveal broken bones and hidden structures inside the body without a single incision. Penicillin is discovered by Alexander Fleming, almost by accident, marking the beginning of antibiotics. Picture a petri dish left on a cluttered desk. A mold grows along the edge. The bacteria near the mold disappear. Fleming notices this and realizes that the mold secretes something that kills bacteria. This small observation becomes a miracle drug, saving millions of lives during World War II and beyond. Pneumonia, once a death sentence, becomes treatable. Wounds that would have turned septic now heal cleanly. Medicine continues expanding. Blood transfusions become safe. Vaccines eradicate smallpox. Polio is nearly eliminated. Understanding of hygiene, microbes, and immunity transforms the world. Life expectancy doubles in many regions. Conditions that once devastated communities become manageable or preventable. Imagine the relief of parents watching their children grow up without fear of illnesses that once stole lives silently. The gratitude of patients whose infections disappear with a few days of antibiotics. The wonder of doctors who can now diagnose diseases with tools that reveal what lies beneath skin and bone. The birth of modern medicine is not a single moment. It is a symphony of discoveries, each building upon the last. Microscopes, vaccines, anesthesia, antiseptics, antibiotics, imaging, and public health measures converge to create a world where healing is grounded in evidence, precision, and deep scientific understanding. As your breath falls into an easy, slow rhythm, imagine standing in this transformed world. Hospitals are clean and bright. Surgeons operate with sterilized instruments. Scientists study cells, bacteria, and viruses under powerful microscopes. Medicines derived from centuries of knowledge fill shelves in pharmacies. Vaccines protect communities. Clean water supports health. Hygiene prevents outbreaks. The story of medicine has moved from instinct to ritual, from herbs to anatomy, from inquiry to discovery. Now the next chapter begins, a chapter in which the mind and body are understood as inseparable, where healing is shaped not only by biology, but by psychology, emotion, experience, and the mysterious landscape of the human nervous system. The path ahead leads to the study of the mind and the body, to the inner world where thoughts, feelings, and physiology converge, shaping health in ways our ancestors could never have imagined. The mind and the body. Imagine lying beneath an open night sky. The stars shimmer softly in the darkness. The air is cool against your skin. Your breath rises and falls in a gentle wave. In this quiet space, the boundary between the mind and the body begins to blur. You feel your heartbeat, steady and calm. You sense the shift in your muscles as you exhale. Thoughts drift slowly, like soft currents moving across a still lake. This connection, this silent dialogue between mind and body, has been present in every human who ever lived. Yet, for most of history, its nature remained hidden, mysterious, almost unknowable. As the world entered the 20th century, medicine had already undergone enormous transformation. Doctors understood germs, anatomy, circulation, infection, and immunity. They had tools, treatments, and the beginnings of pharmacology. But one realm remained elusive: the influence of thoughts, emotions, and beliefs on physical health. This was the next frontier, a frontier not visible under microscopes or within anatomical dissections, but alive within each human experience. Take a slow breath and imagine paging back through the long history of healing. In ancient times, the mind and body were never separate. Shamans understood that fear could weaken someone's vitality. Healers used chants, stories, and symbolic actions to ease emotional pain. Rituals calmed the mind, and the body followed. Indian Ayurvedic texts described how emotional imbalance could lead to physical disease. Chinese medicine viewed emotions as forces that moved through the body along channels of energy. Greek physicians like Hippocrates believed that sadness, joy, anger, and fear influenced humors and organ function. And yet, as medicine became more scientific in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries, the mind-body connection faded from focus. The discoveries of anatomy, physiology, germ theory, and chemistry were so powerful that emotions seemed secondary, unscientific, or irrelevant. The mind became something separate, difficult to measure, harder to describe, and therefore often ignored. But human experience refused to stay silent. People still felt their hearts race when frightened. They felt their stomach twist when anxious. They felt warmth fill their chest when loved. They recovered faster when supported and suffered longer when lonely. They felt exhaustion when depressed, tension when stressed, and strength when encouraged. The mind whispered through the body constantly, and the body responded. Slowly, scientists began listening. Imagine stepping into the late 19th century. Laboratories buzz with new instruments. Physicians study the nervous system with growing fascination. Early psychologists like William James and Wilhelm Wundt begin exploring the mechanics of consciousness, emotion, and sensation. They ask questions that sound simple but carry immense power. What is a thought? What is a feeling? How does the brain create experience? How do emotions shape behavior? At the same time, neurologists such as Jean-Martin Charcot observe patients whose symptoms seem physical, yet no anatomical cause can be found. Tremors, paralysis, blindness, conditions that appear rooted in the body but are deeply connected to trauma, memory, and the subconscious mind. Sigmund Freud, influenced by Charcot, begins investigating the inner workings of the mind, proposing that thoughts and emotions hidden from conscious awareness can influence physical health. Though many of his ideas later evolve or fall away, he opens the door to the study of psychological processes in healing. As your breath flows gently, imagine the next great shift taking place in the early 20th century. Researchers discover that the brain communicates with the body through a vast network of nerves and chemical signals. The autonomic nervous system, responsible for heart rate, breathing, digestion, and stress response, becomes a major focus. Scientists learn that this system has two branches: the sympathetic system, which activates during stress, and the parasympathetic system, which brings calm and restoration. Picture a researcher observing a patient during a stressful task. Their heart rate increases, their palms sweat, their breathing quickens, muscles tense. This is the body's automatic response. But then imagine the same person practicing calm breathing, meditation, or positive visualization. Their heart rate slows, their muscles release tension, stress hormones decrease. The body shifts from a state of defense to a state of healing. This discovery becomes one of the great turning points in understanding the mind-body connection. Around the same time, the field of endocrinology emerges. Scientists find that emotions influence hormones released by glands throughout the body. Stress triggers the release of cortisol and adrenaline, powerful chemicals that prepare the body for action but suppress immunity, digestion, and growth when present for too long. Calmness triggers the release of oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, and other chemicals that support recovery, resilience, and emotional well-being. The body listens to the mind constantly, adjusting its internal chemistry based on emotional state. Imagine a physician in the 1930s studying the effects of stress. Hans Selye, a pioneering endocrinologist, exposes rats to different forms of stress and observes similar patterns of physiological change: enlarged adrenal glands, weakened immune systems, and stomach ulcers. He realizes that the body does not distinguish between types of stress: emotional, physical, or psychological. It reacts the same way. Selye names this the general adaptation syndrome, laying the groundwork for modern stress science. As you breathe slowly, imagine how transformative this understanding becomes. The body is no longer seen as a machine independent of thought. It is a living, dynamic system shaped by emotion, belief, memory, and perception. Healing now requires attending to both body and mind. In mid-20th century America, another researcher named Walter Cannon studies how the body maintains internal balance, a concept he calls homeostasis. He discovers that the body constantly adjusts blood pressure, temperature, fluid levels, and chemical composition through feedback loops governed by the nervous system. Cannon also identifies the fight or flight response, explaining how the body prepares for danger and how anxiety, fear, and prolonged stress mimic that same response even without physical threats. Picture Cannon standing beside a patient, explaining how their palpitations, sweating, trembling, or shortness of breath are not signs of physical illness, but the body's protective response triggered by the mind's perception of danger. This idea releases people from fear, offering a new perspective on illness and recovery. As your body relaxes, imagine stepping into the decades that follow, where psychologists, neuroscientists, and physicians begin weaving the mind and body into a single tapestry. Studies show that social support strengthens immunity. Hope improves recovery from surgery. Anxiety slows wound healing. Meditation reduces blood pressure. Visualization enhances athletic performance. Grief can weaken the heart. Joy increases resilience. Every discovery reveals the same truth. The mind and the body are inseparable. In the mid-20th century, cardiologist Maya Friedman notices that patients with aggressive, impatient, highly stressed personalities, what he calls type A behavior, are more likely to develop heart disease. This insight sparks decades of research into how chronic stress, emotional repression, and lifestyle influence physical health. Once again, ancient wisdom aligns with modern science. What early healers sensed intuitively now gains scientific validation. Imagine a patient sitting in a quiet clinic. They suffer from chronic pain with no clear physical cause. A physician listens carefully, not only to symptoms, but to the patient's story. They talk about emotional stress, past trauma, unresolved conflict, or loneliness. As the patient speaks, their shoulders lower, their breath deepens, their pain lightens slightly. This moment marks a shift in understanding. Pain is not purely physical. It is shaped by the nervous system, memory, and perception. Neuroscientists begin mapping the brain with new tools. Electrical recordings reveal patterns of brain activity linked to states of emotion and stress. Later, MRI machines show how different regions of the brain light up during particular thoughts or feelings. Scientists see how trauma changes neural pathways, how meditation strengthens the prefrontal cortex, how mindfulness calms the amygdala, the brain's fear center. The brain becomes a landscape that can be shaped, healed, and rewired. As you sink deeper into rest, imagine the concept of neuroplasticity unfolding. For hundreds of years, scientists believed the brain was fixed after childhood, but new research shows the opposite. The brain is constantly changing, forming new connections in response to experience, learning, and practice. This discovery becomes a beacon of hope. It means emotional wounds can heal, habits can change, stress responses can be retrained, thoughts can shape physiology, calm can be learned. Picture someone recovering from a stroke. The brain has lost certain functions. Yet through repetition, therapy, and mental focus, new pathways begin to form. They relearn to walk, speak, or move their hands. The brain adapts. This ability, once unimaginable, becomes a cornerstone of modern rehabilitation. The mind guides the body, and the body reinforces the mind. As the 20th century progresses, another important field emerges: psychoneuroimmunology. Scientists discover that the immune system is directly influenced by the nervous system and the endocrine system. Stress weakens immunity. Relaxation strengthens it. Loneliness increases inflammation. Optimism reduces it. The intricate dance between emotion and immunity becomes clear. Imagine a group of volunteers in a research study. Half of them practice mindfulness meditation. Half do not. Over weeks and months, those who meditate show lower levels of inflammation, stronger immune markers, and reduced stress hormones. This finding supports what spiritual and healing traditions have known for millennia. Calmness is medicine. Stillness heals. Emotional balance supports physical health. Now imagine a patient undergoing treatment for chronic illness. They receive medication, physical therapy, or surgery, but also therapy for trauma, encouragement for social connection, breathing exercises, or mindfulness training. Their recovery improves. They feel more empowered, more resilient, more connected. Healing becomes holistic once again, a blend of science and emotional care. As your breath softens, picture a modern physician speaking with their patient, not only about medications, but about sleep, nutrition, stress, relationships, and purpose. The physician understands that loneliness can be as harmful as smoking, that chronic stress can be as damaging as high blood pressure, and that emotional support can be as therapeutic as medicine. This perspective mirrors ancient healing traditions while being grounded in modern evidence. In hospitals, mental health teams work alongside surgeons, pediatricians, and cardiologists. In clinics, mindfulness, yoga, and breathwork become part of treatment for anxiety, depression, and chronic pain. Neuroscientists explore how trauma alters brain circuits and how therapy, connection, and compassion can restore them. Psychologists study how belief affects healing. Placebo research reveals that the mind's expectation can trigger measurable changes in the brain and body. Hope itself becomes a form of medicine. Imagine a patient receiving a fake treatment in a trial, an inactive pill. They believe it will help, and their symptoms improve. Pain decreases, anxiety softens. The brain releases endorphins and dopamine. These responses are not imaginary. They are physiological. The placebo effect is not a trick. It is evidence of the mind's power to influence the body. It reminds us that healing is not only chemical or mechanical. It is psychological, emotional, and deeply personal. Now imagine a patient receiving the opposite, a nocebo. They believe a harmless substance will harm them, and their body responds with pain, nausea, or anxiety. This too reveals the power of expectation. The mind shapes the body constantly, whether through fear or hope. As you breathe gently, imagine the body as a symphony, with the mind as the conductor. Every emotion becomes a note. Every thought becomes a vibration. Every belief shapes the flow of hormones, signals, and rhythms. The heart responds to fear or love. The gut reacts to anxiety or relief. The skin flushes with embarrassment or glows with happiness. The muscles tense with stress or soften with peace. The immune system strengthens with joy or weakens with grief. The mind and body are in constant conversation. Modern medicine now embraces this truth. Healing involves biology, psychology, and social connection. Doctors acknowledge the importance of community, purpose, belonging, and meaning. They encourage patients to cultivate calmness, to breathe deeply, to rest, to connect, to reflect, not as alternatives to medicine, but as powerful partners. As you relax deeper, imagine the next evolution in understanding, the study of trauma and resilience. Scientists discover that traumatic experiences shape the nervous system, altering the body's reactions long after the event is over. But they also find that humans have extraordinary capacity for healing. Through therapy, relationships, mindfulness, and time, the brain rewires itself. Patterns of fear soften. Patterns of safety grow. Resilience is not a trait. It is a skill that can be learned, shaped, and strengthened. The study of the mind and body reflects a return to ancient wisdom through the lens of modern science. It tells us that healing is not only external, it is internal, it is emotional, it is relational, it is shaped by breath, thought, memory, and feeling. As your breath rises and falls, imagine this truth settling gently into your awareness. The mind and the body are one. They have always been one, and the story of healing moves forward now into the realm of one of humanity's most universal experiences: pain. What it is, why it exists, and how medicine learned to soothe it. Pain and relief. Imagine a world drenched in silence, just before dawn, when the mind is calm and the body is still. In that quiet space, Imagine a single sensation, a spark of discomfort rising somewhere deep within. Pain. It captures attention instantly. It interrupts thought, movement, intention. It demands awareness. Pain is one of the oldest, most powerful signals in the human experience. It has shaped our evolution, our behavior, our culture, and our healing traditions. To understand the story of medicine, we must understand pain, why it exists, how it travels through the body, how humans have tried to soothe it, and how modern science uncovered its hidden pathways. Pain is not random. It is not a punishment. It is the body's messenger, developed through millions of years of evolution to protect life. In the ancient world, a cut or burn could mean infection. A twisted bone could mean vulnerability to predators. A fever could signal danger. Pain brought awareness to these threats. It forced early humans to rest, to care for one another, to seek remedies from nature, to adapt and survive. Pain shaped the very first healers who learned to soothe wounds, cool burns, and ease fevers long before they understood the mechanisms behind them. But pain is far more than a physical signal. It is intertwined with emotion, memory, environment, and meaning. Two people can feel the same injury differently. The same injury can hurt more when someone is afraid, lonely, or exhausted. Pain, from the very beginning of human history, has been as much a psychological experience as a physical one. Take a slow breath and imagine the earliest humans trying to soothe pain. Picture someone in prehistoric times sitting beside a wounded companion. They cool a burn with water from a stream. They press soft leaves onto an injury. They massage strained muscles with warm hands. These simple acts create relief, not only through touch, but through presence, connection, and reassurance. Pain eases, even when the remedy is simple, because the mind plays a role in the body's perception of suffering. As civilizations evolved, so did the ways people tried to understand pain. In ancient Egypt, healers believed pain traveled through invisible channels in the body. They used herbs, oils, and rituals to clear these pathways. They recognized that certain plants numbed the skin or soothed inflammation. They used opium poppies to ease severe pain, discovering the earliest form of opioid medicine. Imagine a healer in Thebes preparing a mixture of crushed poppy resin. The smell is earthy, bitter, and calming. The patient sips it or inhales its vapors. Their breathing slows. Their body softens. Relief washes over them like warm water. These practices reveal the early recognition that pain could be altered by natural substances, plants with compounds that interact with the nervous system. In ancient China, physicians believed pain arose from disruptions in the flow of qi, the life force that moves through the body. They inserted fine needles into specific points to restore balance. This practice, known as acupuncture, has endured for thousands of years and still plays a role in modern pain management. Chinese healers also used moxibustion, warming herbs near the skin, to stimulate circulation and relieve discomfort. Their methods were rooted in observation, pattern recognition, and the belief that the body contains energy networks that can be adjusted like strings on an instrument. Ayurvedic practitioners in India saw pain as arising from imbalances in doshas, internal energies shaped by lifestyle, diet, and emotion. They used heat, massage, meditation, and herbal preparations to soothe pain. Turmeric for inflammation, ashwagandha for stress, warm compresses infused with oils to relax muscles. They recognized how breath influences pain, using slow exhalations to soften tension. They understood that pain worsens when the mind is unsettled and eases when the mind is calm. Greek philosophers offered their own interpretation. Hippocrates believed pain was a natural response to imbalance or injury. He emphasized rest, diet, and gentle remedies. The Greeks used willow bark for pain, understanding its effects long before salicylic acid, the precursor to aspirin, was identified. They also used massage, warm baths, and movement to relieve discomfort. Their approach reflected a belief that the body could heal itself when supported thoughtfully. As your breath deepens, imagine the Roman world, where surgeons developed increasingly sophisticated tools. They performed amputations, treated battlefield wounds, and used opium and wine as early anesthetics. Galen, the influential Roman physician, believed pain arose when the body's tissues were damaged or inflamed. Though he misunderstood some specifics, he recognized pain as a physiological response. His writings shaped medical thought for centuries. Throughout history, pain was both feared and respected. It signaled danger, but it also taught resilience. It was seen as a test, a teacher, a reminder of vulnerability. But as civilizations advanced, people sought more effective ways to understand and manage it. Now imagine the world moving into the Renaissance. Anatomists dissect the body to uncover the structure of nerves. They discover that nerves carry sensations from the skin to the brain. They realize that pain is not caused by spirits or imbalance alone. It is transmitted through pathways of flesh and fiber. Fast forward to the 17th century. René Descartes, intrigued by the relationship between mind and body, proposes a mechanical model of pain. He imagines nerves as ropes pulled by external forces, transmitting signals to the brain, which then reacts. Though oversimplified, his idea marks an important shift. Pain is a signal, carried through a physical system. As science develops, researchers identify the spinal cord as a central highway for pain signals. They discover that the brain, not the heart or liver, interprets these signals. Pain is not simply a wound or injury. It is a perception, shaped by the brain's interpretation of sensory input. In the 19th century, another breakthrough emerges. Scientists discover specialized nerve endings called nociceptors, designed to detect dangerous stimuli, sharp edges, heat, chemical irritation, inflammation. These nerve endings send electrical signals to the spinal cord, which relays them to the brain. Pain becomes understood not as a disorder, but as an essential warning system. Yet, even as the biological basis of pain becomes clearer, researchers make another crucial discovery. Pain is not purely mechanical. The same injury can produce different levels of pain depending on context, emotion, meaning, and attention. Pain is both sensory and emotional. Imagine a soldier on a battlefield. Their leg is injured, blood flows, but their mind is focused on survival, on rescuing others, or on reaching safety. They may feel little pain in the moment. Later, in a quiet tent with the danger gone, the pain arrives in full force. The brain has shifted its priorities, suppressing pain during crisis and allowing it afterward. Similarly, imagine a child falling while running. At first, there is silence. Then, when they look up and see a parent's concerned face, they begin to cry. The pain intensifies when it is acknowledged, not because the injury changed, but because the meaning changed. The brain interprets safety, attention, or threat and modulates pain accordingly. In the 20th century, this understanding deepens as psychologists Ronald Melzack and Patrick Wall proposed the gate control theory of pain. They describe the spinal cord as a gate that can amplify or dampen pain signals before they reach the brain. Physical touch, heat, cold, and even emotion can influence this gate. Fear opens it, confidence closes it. Loneliness opens it, support closes it. Anxiety opens it, calm closes it. This theory revolutionizes pain science. It explains why rubbing a hurt elbow can reduce pain, why distraction helps, why fear makes pain more intense, and why therapies like massage, acupuncture, heat, and movement are effective. Now imagine modern neuroscience exploring the brain's pain centers. Researchers map regions in the cortex that process pain's intensity, its location, and its emotional weight. They discover the insula, which tracks the body's internal state, the anterior cingulate cortex, which processes suffering, the prefrontal cortex, which interprets meaning. Pain is not one signal. It is a symphony of signals shaped by expectation, attention, memory, and emotion. As your breath becomes steady, imagine how this understanding transforms modern medicine. Pain treatment becomes more nuanced. Doctors recognize that managing pain requires addressing both the body and the mind. Patients with chronic pain learn that their brain may amplify signals even when damage has healed. They learn that the nervous system can become oversensitive, like an alarm that goes off too easily. Imagine a patient with chronic back pain. The injury healed months ago, yet the pain persists. Their brain has learned to expect pain, strengthening pathways that amplify discomfort. Stress tightens muscles. Fear increases tension. The person avoids movement, which worsens stiffness. The cycle continues. Modern pain science teaches that breaking this cycle requires not only physical therapy, but calming the nervous system, changing beliefs, retraining the brain, and restoring confidence in movement. In hospitals today, pain management blends pharmacology, psychology, and physical rehabilitation. Doctors prescribe medications to reduce inflammation or block nerve signals. Therapists teach deep breathing, mindfulness, and relaxation techniques to regulate the nervous system. Physical therapists guide gentle movements that rebuild strength without triggering fear. Psychologists help patients understand how emotions shape pain signals. Acupuncturists stimulate points that shift neural activity. Massage therapists ease muscle tension that amplifies pain. Imagine a patient sitting in a clinic, the breathing shallow, the shoulders tense. A physician speaks calmly, explaining that the body is not broken, that the nervous system has learned a pattern and can unlearn it. The patient practices slow exhalations. The muscles soften. The pain decreases, not because the injury changed, but because the brain's interpretation shifted. This understanding reflects a beautiful truth. Pain is not fixed. It is flexible, influenced by everything we think and feel. And relief comes not only from medicine, but from breathwork, human connection, emotional safety, movement, and mindfulness. Take a slow breath and imagine the body's natural pain relief system awakening. Endorphins released during deep breathing, serotonin rising during calm moments, oxytocin flowing when we feel supported, dopamine increasing with hope. These chemicals soothe the nervous system, close the spinal gate, and soften pain's intensity. Relief becomes a dance between body chemistry, brain patterns, and emotional state. Modern medicine continues expanding its understanding of pain. Researchers study how meditation alters pain perception, how compassion reduces suffering, how social connections strengthens resilience, how trauma intensifies pain signals, how fear rewires the brain, how calmness restores balance. Imagine someone sitting in meditation, breathing slowly. Their pain decreases, not because their wound healed instantly, but because their brain shifted into a state of safety, reducing the alarm signals sent through the body. Calmness itself becomes medicine. As your breath softens, imagine the ancient healers watching this modern world. They would recognize the truth immediately. They understood that pain is shaped by fear, softened by touch, eased by presence, and influenced by belief. Modern science has simply provided the mechanisms behind what humans have known intuitively for thousands of years. Pain is not the enemy. It is a messenger, a guardian, a teacher, and relief comes from understanding its language, the signals it carries, the emotions that amplify it, and the techniques that ease it. This chapter of the story prepares the path for the next, the healing brain, the extraordinary organ that controls movement, sensation, learning, memory, emotion, resilience, and the capacity to recover from injury. A chapter that reveals the most profound truth of all. The brain can change, and through that change, healing becomes possible, even when pain feels permanent. The healing brain. Imagine the quiet glow of early morning, long before the world awakens, when the mind feels soft and spacious. Your breath moves calmly through your body. Thoughts drift gently, like ripples across still water. In this quiet space, imagine the organ within you that orchestrates every sensation, every thought, every memory, every movement. An intricate landscape of billions of cells, each communicating through pulses of electricity and delicate chemical signals. This is the brain, the conductor of the nervous system, the seat of consciousness, the architect of healing. For thousands of years, humans tried to understand the brain through intuition, philosophy, and observation. They knew it was essential, but could not grasp its complexity. Ancient Egyptians believed the heart held intelligence, removing the brain during mummification. Greek thinkers debated whether the mind lived in the heart or the head. Early anatomists examined the brain's folds, but knew nothing of its function. The brain remained a mystery, silent, soft, and protected deep within the skull. But as science progressed through the centuries, the brain slowly revealed its secrets. What began as curiosity transformed into one of the greatest explorations in human history. The journey to understand how the brain feels, learns, remembers, adapts, and heals. Take a slow breath and imagine stepping into the late 19th century, a time when neuroscience begins to awaken. Scientists like Santiago Ramon y Cajal peer into tissue samples through early microscopes, drawing the first detailed images of neurons. He sees that the brain is not one continuous mass, but a vast forest of individual cells. Their branches stretch like trees, connecting through tiny gaps where signals pass in delicate arcs of electricity. Ramon y Cajal is mesmerized. He draws each neuron by hand, revealing their intricate shapes, star-like, branching, curling around one another. His drawings, both scientific and artistic, show the brain as a living forest of communication. His work earns him the title, the father of modern neuroscience, and his insights transform our understanding of the brain forever. Imagine standing beside him as he sketches. The room is dim, lit by a single lamp. His hands move with steady precision. He sees beauty in the complexity. He understands that these tiny cells create everything we experience, every memory, every emotion, every moment of clarity or confusion, every sensation of pain or relief. As your breath slows, imagine how early neuroscientists began mapping the brain's functions. They discovered that different regions control different abilities. The motor cortex for movement, the occipital lobe for vision, the temporal lobe for memory, the frontal lobe for planning and decision-making. They learned that the brain is not a single organ with one purpose, but a symphony of interconnected regions, each playing its own part. Yet even as scientists uncover these truths, they believe one thing incorrectly, that the brain is fixed, that once fully developed in childhood, it no longer changes, that damage is permanent, that abilities cannot be relearned. For decades, this belief shapes education, rehabilitation, and psychology. But then, slowly, evidence begins to accumulate. Evidence that challenges this assumption. Imagine a scientist observing a patient recovering from a stroke. The patient lost the ability to speak, move, or recognize certain objects. Yet with therapy, time, and effort, they regain some of these abilities. The brain must be adapting in ways scientists do not yet understand. Imagine another patient who loses their sight but develops extraordinary hearing or touch. How can this be? The brain must be reorganizing itself, strengthening unused pathways and repurposing existing ones. These observations mark the beginning of a profound discovery. Neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to change, adapt, and reorganize throughout life. The brain is not fixed. It is dynamic. It is sculpted by experience, shaped by repetition, and transformed by attention. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine neuroplasticity as a river carving new channels through the landscape of the mind. Rivers change course when currents shift. The brain changes course when experiences shift. When we learn something new, neurons form new connections. When we practice a skill repeatedly, pathways strengthen. When we stop using certain abilities, pathways weaken. When trauma or injury strikes, the brain can form alternative routes around damaged areas. Neuroplasticity explains how children learn languages easily, how musicians develop extraordinary dexterity, how new habits form, how therapy heals old wounds, how mindfulness reshapes the brain's stress response, how patients recover abilities once thought lost forever. Picture a violinist practicing each day. Their brain reorganizes itself, strengthening pathways that control finger movement, auditory processing, and memory. Picture a student studying mathematics. Their neural networks expand, forming connections between regions responsible for logic, spatial reasoning, and pattern recognition. Picture someone meditating, focusing on their breath. The prefrontal cortex strengthens. The amygdala, the fear center, shrinks. Stress responses soften. The brain is always learning, even when we are unaware of it. Now imagine how the brain heals after injury. Consider someone recovering from a traumatic brain injury. At first, they struggle to speak, move, or remember. But with therapy, practice, and time, the brain begins to rewire itself. Other regions take over functions once lost. New pathways form around damaged areas. Recovery may be slow, but it is often possible. The brain's resilience is always greater than it appears. Imagine a child with developmental challenges. Therapists work with them through repetition, encouragement, and structured practice. Slowly, new abilities emerge. Words, movements, social connection. Neuroplasticity allows growth and change, even when obstacles seem insurmountable. Imagine someone healing from emotional trauma. They relive memories that once triggered fear or panic. Through therapy, they learn new ways to respond. They breathe slowly. They reflect. They release emotions stored deep in the body. Over time, the brain rewires itself. Stress circuits weaken. Calm circuits strengthen. The mind becomes safer. Modern neuroscience reveals that healing is not only physical. It is emotional, psychological, relational. The brain heals through connection, through support, through presence, through meaning. Now imagine the brain's communication systems in action. Billions of neurons talk to one another through synapses. tiny gaps where chemical messengers carry signals. Dopamine creates motivation and reward. Serotonin stabilizes mood. GABA calms neural activity. Norepinephrine sharpens focus. Endorphins reduce pain. Oxytocin brings warmth and trust. These chemicals form the language of the nervous system, shaping every moment of experience. When the brain experiences safety, these chemicals flow in harmonious patterns. When the brain is stressed, survival circuits dominate, and the body shifts into protective states. Healing requires guiding the brain back towards safety, allowing the nervous system to relax and restore. Imagine your brain right now, slowly drifting into a safe, restful state. As you breathe, your vagus nerve, the main pathway of the parasympathetic nervous system, activates. Your heart rate softens, digestion improves, muscles release tension. In this state, the brain repairs itself. It prunes unnecessary connections. It strengthens pathways related to calmness, memory, and resilience. Sleep deepens this process, washing the brain in cerebrospinal fluid that clears toxins and restores clarity. Healing is built into the nervous system. Now imagine how modern medicine uses this knowledge. Stroke rehabilitation focuses on repetitive movement to encourage neuroplasticity. Trauma therapy helps rewire stress circuits. Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches new patterns of thought, reshaping neural networks. Mindfulness meditation strengthens the prefrontal cortex and calms the amygdala. Music therapy engages multiple brain regions, supporting emotional healing. Physical exercise stimulates neurogenesis, the creation of new brain cells. Imagine someone walking in nature. Their brain responds to the colors of leaves, the sound of wind, the smell of earth. These sensory experiences lower stress hormones, increase serotonin, and promote calmness. Nature itself becomes a healing partner. Imagine someone practicing gratitude before sleep. Their brain shifts toward positive memory pathways, reinforcing resilience. Daily practices reshape the mind, just as physical exercise reshapes muscles. Now picture how the brain influences the immune system. The two are deeply intertwined. Chronic stress weakens immunity, increasing inflammation and vulnerability. Calmness strengthens immunity, reducing inflammation and promoting recovery. Emotional well-being supports physical healing in measurable ways. As your breath flows gently, imagine the brain as a garden. Thoughts are seeds. Attention is sunlight. Repetition is water. Experience is soil. Some seeds grow easily. Anxiety, fear, old habits. Others require nurturing. Calmness, confidence, resilience. Neuroplasticity allows gardeners of the mind to pull weeds, plant new seeds, and shape the landscape intentionally. Healing becomes an active process, a journey guided by awareness, patience, and gentle practice. Modern neuroscientists now understand that the brain is not only reactive, it is creative. It can imagine possibilities, rehearse future actions, and shape outcomes before they occur. Athletes visualize success. Musicians mentally practice songs. Patients visualize movement or calmness before sleep. The brain changes through imagination as well as action. Now imagine the future of healing through the brain. Brain-computer interfaces helping paralyzed individuals communicate. Neurofeedback training reducing anxiety. Psychedelic-assisted therapy promoting emotional breakthroughs. Virtual reality guiding rehabilitation. These innovations reflect a new era where the brain's capacity for change becomes a powerful tool in healing. Through all of this, the most important truth remains. The brain is never static. It learns, it adapts, it heals, it reshapes itself in response to experience. As your breath settles into an easy, peaceful rhythm, imagine this truth settling gently into your mind. Healing is not an event, it's a process. A process guided by the brain's extraordinary ability to change. A process shaped by rest, connection, thought, breath, and intention. A process woven through every moment of being. This understanding leads naturally into the final chapter of medicine's story, the future of healing. A future shaped by technology, genetics, neuroscience, psychology, and the timeless human desire to understand ourselves. The future of medicine. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of an immense horizon. The world around you is quiet, filled with a soft hum of possibility. The air feels lighter, as if the next breath you take belongs not only to this moment, but to a time still unfolding. Medicine, after thousands of years of evolution, has brought humanity from instincts and herbs to microscopes, vaccines, anatomy, neuroscience, and the deep understanding of the mind and body. And now, as you stand in this gentle twilight between present and future, the next chapter begins with a question. What comes next? Take a slow breath and let your mind drift forward through time. Imagine the soft glow of screens in quiet laboratories, advanced scanners humming softly, robotic arms moving with precise grace, and researchers exploring the mysteries of life at levels so small they make even the microscopic world seem vast. The future of medicine is a blend of technology and humanity, science and compassion, innovation and ancient wisdom. It is a world where healing expands beyond anything known before. Begin by imagining a hospital of the near future. The lights are warm, not harsh. Rooms are quiet, designed to soothe rather than overwhelm. Artificial intelligence assists doctors by analyzing data instantly, spotting patterns in scans, predicting complications before they arise, and suggesting treatment plans tailored to each person's biology, genetics, lifestyle, and environment. AI does not replace human judgment. It enhances it, giving doctors more time to listen, comfort, and connect. Picture a physician walking into a patient's room. They carry a small tablet that displays an interactive map of the patient's health, genetic markers, stress levels, immune activity, sleep patterns, nutrition gaps, emotional state, and the history of their symptoms. Instead of treating a single problem, the physician sees the entire person, body, mind, context, habits, and emotional landscape. Treatment becomes personalized, responsive, and deeply human. Now imagine stepping inside a research lab where scientists study the human genome. The genome is a vast library of instructions written in chemical letters, shaping how we grow, how we age, and how we respond to disease. Geneticists learn to read these instructions with extraordinary precision. They identify which gene variations increase risk for certain conditions. They understand which combinations protect health and how lifestyle influences genetic expression. The future of medicine includes genetic therapies that repair harmful mutations, turn off destructive processes, or activate protective ones. Imagine a child born with a rare genetic disorder. Instead of facing a lifetime of struggle, they receive a therapy that corrects the faulty gene, restoring function, preventing illness, allowing life to unfold with ease and possibility. But genetics is only one piece of the future. Consider how technology may allow the regeneration of tissues and organs. Scientists are learning to grow organs in the lab: hearts, kidneys, livers, and even lungs. Imagine someone in need of a transplant no longer waiting for a donor. Their own cells are used to grow a new organ, perfectly matched, free from rejection, ready when needed. Imagine a future where a damaged spinal cord can be repaired, where lost vision can be restored, where aging tissues can be rejuvenated through cellular therapies. Stem cells, primitive cells that can develop into any type of tissue, become powerful tools for healing. Picture a patient with heart damage from years of illness. Stem cells are introduced into the damaged tissue. Slowly, new cells grow, repairing the heart from within. The organ regains strength. The patient's breath becomes easier. Their energy returns. The future of medicine turns regeneration into reality. Now imagine nanomedicine, the use of microscopic machines so small they travel through the bloodstream, seeking out disease at its earliest stages. These tiny devices identify harmful cells, deliver medication directly where it is needed, or repair damaged molecule by molecule. They move silently through the body like gentle caretakers, performing tasks that once required invasive procedures. Imagine you could swallow a capsule containing millions of these nanobots. They disperse through your circulatory system, scanning for abnormalities, removing harmful proteins, repairing damaged cells, and keeping your internal environment in perfect balance. Illness may be prevented long before symptoms appear. As your breath softens, imagine how artificial intelligence enhances diagnosis. AI can examine millions of medical images, learn subtle patterns invisible to the human eye, and flag early signs of cancers, infections, and metabolic disorders with remarkable accuracy. It can analyze speech patterns to detect neurological disorders. It can evaluate sleep rhythms, heart activity, and stress markers through wearable devices that gently monitor the body throughout the day. But the future of medicine is not just about technology. It is also about rediscovering the importance of emotional health, lifestyle, purpose, and connection. Imagine a healthcare system that treats stress with as much seriousness as infection, understanding that chronic stress alters immunity, hormones, digestion, and brain function. Imagine doctors prescribing nature walks, meditation, music therapy, supportive relationships, or meaningful work as essential components of treatment. The future also includes the study of consciousness itself. Neuroscientists explore how thoughts arise, how awareness works, how memories form, and how mental states influence the body. With advanced imaging tools, scientists observe the brain during meditation, empathy, grief, creativity, and healing. They discover that the brain is more flexible than ever imagined, that consciousness may hold untapped potential for recovery, perception, and emotional resilience. Picture a patient preparing for surgery. Instead of being overwhelmed with anxiety, they use virtual reality to visualize calm landscapes and immersive environments. Their heart rate slows, their stress hormones decrease, their immune system strengthens. After surgery, they heal more quickly because their nervous system remains steady, soothed by visualization and guided relaxation. Now imagine the realm of psychedelic-assisted therapy, one of the most promising fields in modern mental health. Under controlled therapeutic conditions, substances like psilocybin or MDMA allow patients to access deeper emotional layers, reconnect with repressed memories, or dissolve patterns of fear. Combined with psychotherapy, they help individuals heal from trauma, depression, and addiction with astonishing effectiveness. These therapies remind medicine that the mind can unlock healing when guided safely and thoughtfully. The future also moves toward integrative medicine, a harmonious blend of scientific precision and holistic approaches. Western medicine, with its powerful diagnostics and treatments, merges with Eastern traditions that emphasize balance, energy, and harmony. Acupuncture complements physical therapy. Herbal medicine supports pharmacology. Meditation enhances recovery. Breathwork softens chronic pain. Nutrition becomes a central foundation of health. Movement practices like yoga, tai chi, and qigong strengthen the nervous system and enhance longevity. Imagine a medical center where a cardiologist, a nutritionist, a psychologist, a sleep specialist, and a movement therapist work as a team. They treat not only the condition, but the person. Their combined knowledge creates a form of healing that is both cutting-edge and deeply intuitive. As your breath deepens, imagine the future of emotional healing. Trauma therapists use advanced brain imaging to identify how trauma reshapes neural circuits. They use targeted therapies, EMDR, somatic processing, sensory-motor integration, to help patients release emotional patterns stored in the body. Patients learn to regulate their nervous systems, to shift from fight or flight to rest and restoration. Healing becomes not just possible, but transformative. Now envision aging in this future. Medical research uncovers pathways that influence longevity. Scientists identify how cells age, why DNA accumulates damage, and how inflammation shapes the aging process. Therapies emerge to slow or reverse aspects of biological aging. Older adults remain active, vibrant, mentally sharp, and physically capable longer than any generation before. Aging becomes a phase of vitality rather than decline. Imagine therapies that repair telomeres, the protective caps on chromosomes. Imagine interventions that reduce chronic inflammation, boost cellular energy, and maintain strength and balance. Imagine a world where living to 100 is common, and those years are filled with clarity, purpose, and movement. But perhaps the most profound aspect of the future of medicine is this: the recognition that healing is not only about fixing what is broken, but nurturing what is whole. Medicine becomes preventive rather than reactive. Doctors focus on lifestyle, sleep, meaning, relationships, movement, and emotional well-being, not as afterthoughts, but as pillars of health. Imagine children learning about emotional awareness, nutrition, stress management, and sleep hygiene in school. Imagine communities designed for walking, connection, and nature immersion. Imagine workplaces that value rest, mental health, and balance. Imagine a culture in which healing begins long before illness appears. As your breath settles into an easy rhythm, imagine how technology and humanity intertwine. Robots assist with surgery, making precise movements that reduce complications. Wearable devices track subtle shifts in the body, alerting people to imbalances early. Virtual health coaches guide individuals through personalized wellness plans. Telemedicine connects patients with specialists anywhere in the world. And yet, through all these advancements, the human touch remains irreplaceable. Healing continues to require presence, empathy, listening, and compassion. A doctor's reassuring voice, a nurse's gentle hands, a therapist's patient guidance, a friend's comforting presence, a moment of hope in a difficult time. These elements remain the soul of medicine, woven into every future breakthrough. Now imagine the far future, beyond laboratories and clinics. Imagine a world where understanding of consciousness deepens, where humans learn how thoughts shape reality, where medicine integrates neuroscience with philosophy, physics, and spiritual traditions. Imagine healing practices that activate the mind's full potential, aligning thoughts, emotions, and physiology to create harmony within. Imagine a world where technology amplifies compassion, where medicine becomes accessible to all, where suffering is reduced through collective understanding, and where each person becomes empowered to care for their own health with wisdom and intention. Take a slow breath and let this vision settle around you. The future of medicine is not merely a continuation of the past, it is a transformation, a merging of science and humanity, a recognition that healing is both physical and emotional, both technological and ancient, both precise and deeply personal. The story of medicine, from the first healers tending wounds beneath the stars to the scientists exploring the mysteries of consciousness, reflects one continuous truth. Humans have always sought to reduce suffering, to understand the body, to nurture the mind, and to help one another heal. This story, long and ancient, leads to the moment you are in now, breathing softly, resting deeply, held by the quiet rhythm of life itself. You have walked through the entire journey of healing, from instinct to ritual, from herbs to science, from anatomy to neuroscience, from pain to resilience, from the present to the unfolding future. And now, in this final moment, the story settles gently around you like a soft blanket, reminding you that healing is a part of being human, timeless, universal, and always possible.